You lead us in the prayer this morning. Everybody stand, please.
Let us pray. Father, Lord, we come this morning thanking you for this day and all the grace and blessings and mercy you bestow upon us. We thank you, Lord, for our nation. We thank you, Lord, for our state and the county of Gates. Father, we ask that you bless now all that we do this morning. Bless the deliberations, discussions, and decisions. Bless the citizens of this county, employees, Lord, and the officials. We ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda, I will turn the meeting over to our county manager, Toby Chappell, for the election of the chairman for the next year. Toby?
Okay. Commissioners, this is the first meeting in December, and you're statutorily required to determine your organizational structure for the next year. So I'll handle the chairman selection, and then whoever the winning chairman is will then handle the vice chairman selection. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the floor for nominations for chairman.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Floor is open for nominations of chairman.
I'd like to nominate Graham Twine for position of chairman.
Okay. Have Graham Twine.
I would like to nominate Mr. Henry Jordan as chairman.
Okay. Graham Twine, Henry Jordan. Are there any other nominations?
I make a motion that we close the nominations for chairman.
Second.
Okay. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion at this time, I'll offer each nominee in the order they were presented. First presented was Graham Twine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay. I have that 4-1. Okay. Chairman Twine.
Thank you, County Manager. All right, now we need to open the floor for the nominations for the vice chair. Do I have a motion to open the floor?
Make a motion we open for nominations for vice chair.
Second?
I've got a motion to open the floor for nominations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we will, do I have any nominations for the vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Henry Jordan.
Okay, Mr. Henry Jordan. Do we have any other nominations?
I make a motion we close nominations for vice chairman.
Okay, we've got a motion to close nominations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, we've got one name for vice chair, would be Mr. Henry Jordan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, 5-0. Congratulations, Henry, you're our new vice chair. Thank you for service.
Thank you. I'm gonna change seats.
Thanks, move to the end of that.
So if you want to, I'll move on.
Oh, you're fine.
Congratulations, Henry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
I think sometimes it's important to have consistency and continuity in our board. And I want to thank you for the work that you do as chairman. I happen to know that it takes a lot of your time. And at the same time, I want to thank Kenny for his service as vice chair.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. All right, we'll move on now. Next on our agenda, we're going to approve the approval of the agenda, or the rest of the agenda anyway. We have a few changes we need to make. Underneath department reports, under the planning director's report where it says the Frank Cross property, that's been removed. Under the old business, under Timmy's order supervisor, that's being moved up to Toby Chapel will be 2 and 3. He's going to give those 2 reports for Timmy. And on the back, we're going to go have a closed session authorized by NC General Statutes 143-318.11A6. We also need to add a 4 to talk about economic development, right? If there are not any other adjustments to the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as changed.
So moved.
Got a
Second.
motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, next one there with the approval of the minutes. Tell me if you had the minutes in your possession. Are there any adjustments to the minutes that need to be made?
On page 987.
That's front page, right?
Yeah. Under approval of the minutes. Very first thing.
Okay.
Proposed, Commissioner Hoare questioned the chairman signing a contract with LS3P Associates LTD for the new library that had been modified by the county manager. The motion to approve the original contract was made, but the motion did not include or address any of the changes discussed and requested by Commissioner Jordan. Therefore, the original contract approved on October the 3rd became null and void when modified. And then in the third section, the board requested to review the modified LS3P contract or LS3P Associates contract that had been modified from the original contract approved on October the 3rd, that had been modified by the county manager and signed by Chairman Twine and not approved by the board. I'll pass that down to Diane. This is more reflective of the activities of that, around that contract.
Okay. Are there any other provisions to the amendment? If not, we'll,
You might want to make an administrative change on page 1,000. It says, under new business, the third paragraph, Mr. Chappell stated requests for proposals have been received for. Add that in there.
okay. Thank you, Henry. Any other changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, now we'll move on to citizens' comments. Okay, we've got 2 for citizens' comments. Would you rather be on the first citizens' comments or the second? Carlton, you're the first one on the list. Hey,
Good
Carlton,
morning.
how you doing?
Donna Carlton.
My name is Carlton Dickens, and I reside on Highway 13, just outside of the town limits of Gatesville. I think everybody probably knows. Good morning, County Commissioners.
Good morning.
How you
Good
doing?
morning, Manager Chapel. Good morning to our clerk to the board, Diane Hendricks. And good morning, Attorney Godwin. And good morning, my fellow citizens. I just have a couple of small items that I would like for you all to consider. I would like to see the speed limit reduced from Highway 158 to from Eastern Cross Road to Rabies Fault to 45 miles an hour.
Talking about back towards from Eastern Crossing back to your way?
Right,
Raven's Fork.
and where the road forks.
Okay, you talking about to Eleanor's Crossroads or
Eleanor's Cross Road, out where the pharmacy used to be and where Hunter's Funeral Home is now.
all the way down to bypass?
All the way down to, well, I'm gonna include the business east and west. And I'd also like to see the same thing on business east and west from Rabies Fault back out to the main 158 at Harold Church Road and 158.
Okay.
And also some deer crossing signs erected in both of those areas.
You ain't hit one down there, hey?
No, but I haven't counted them this hunting season, but I think Mr. McDuffie can tell you about one. But last year, there were 13 deer killed even before hunting season came in between my house and Mr. Claude Savage's house.
Really?
That's correct. And there's also a deer crossing right adjacent to, you know, they're coming from the Turner side over into his field. And I think it would be a great idea for the protection of our citizens and our visitors to the county. And to make it a little less confusing, to go into a 45, 55, and you go 300 or 400 yards, and it turns back to 45 again at the up by the EIC building. It might be considered a good idea to make it 45 from Eastern's Cross Road up to where the present 45 mile an hour speed limit takes place up by the EIC building.
Just make it 45 all the way out.
All right.
What you'd like to say?
Carlton, you're referring to, it's actually will form a triangle. You're talking about all the roads that are on that triangle, 158, 37, and Business 158.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I read in the newspaper where you all had approved a assessment contract with the architect for the old courthouse. I would just like to ask you as commissioners and Manager Chapel to please keep the county citizens involved as to the cost of each phase of those contracts. Being that a contract has been issued, I'm sure that there's a,
We hadn't issued a contract, we just approved them to give us a proposal. We would come with a
well, I'm
contract.
sure there's some cost involved if they'd agree
Yeah,
to
there will be
do
a
an
cost.
assessment.
We've actually got something back from them. We're gonna discuss it, just lightly today, but 1st of January, we'll actually bring the contract out.
Okay,
And the whole proposal out for the public to see,
okay.
and the cost. Each of them is broken down in several phases of cost. But we just got it, yesterday, I believe, so we hadn't had time to do much studying on it yet.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for your
Carlton. We
time.
appreciate it, I really do. All right, next on the agenda, Ms. Reba.
Good morning to everybody. I have two things. One, when you all break this morning for recess, I need a picture of the county manager, clerk, and commissioners in front of the Christmas tree, and it will be hung there for the rest of the season. And also, this year, Gates County 4-H had the opportunity to participate in the Southgate Mall Tree of Giving fundraiser they're doing for, it's about 22 nonprofits that got to decorate a tree at Southgate Mall. And then we get our votes by people casting a ballot and submitting it up at Southgate Mall for votes, and the organization that gets the most votes receives $1,000. So 4-H has a tree at Southgate Mall, which I'll pass one here and one to our commissioners. And we are allowed to have the votes here in the county, and you have several ways to vote. We have ballots here that I'll be passing around that you can vote for us. And just leave them here, and I'll pick them up. You can come by our office. You can go to Southgate Mall. We will be emailing some of you all with the ballot. You can email us and tell us to vote for you, and we'll check the ballot for you. You can fax us the ballot. We have 4-H Facebook and Gates County Extension Facebook. You can contact us and say, check the ballot for us, and we would like for you to ask all your friends, family, relatives in the county, state, and nation. Collect the votes. If you got 25 votes, call us and say, check off 25 ballots for us. We will deliver the ballots to Southgate Mall. We're asking that you get them to us before the county closes on the 21st. And then after that, the last time to vote is the 25th at 6 p.m. The 24th at 6 p.m. If you want to text my cell phone, I will collect those ballots and ride them up there the last go round. So we are really trying to win the $1,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Reba.
I'm going to have to leave early if you'll collect them if I can.
Wow, Christmas Eve.
If y'all will fill out your ballots and sign one before you leave, that'd be great. Just leave it here on the thing and somebody will pick it up. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to our department reports. First on there, Ms. Sandy Pittman, our financial office. Where's Sandy at? Oh, there. Okay. JP? A representative from Martin Stearns is going to present the audit for Gates County. Here you go, Diane.
Apologize, 1 second, let me get it so everybody can see. I think Dane had it set up on my sheet, and I came through with it. Good morning. My name is J.P. Jones, and I'm with Martin Stearns & Associates, the independent auditors for Gates County, North Carolina. This morning, I'm going to present to you just some excerpts from the financial statements which you have before you, and I'm just going to offer you some highlights and some things to think about as you go through this next budget year. And at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and jump in. I want this to be active as it can be. So, first and foremost, a couple of audit highlights that I want to point out is that you have an unqualified opinion on your financial statements. An unqualified opinion is the best opinion that you can get. It's considered an A+. Anything other than an unqualified opinion is actually not acceptable according to the local government commission. And so you have the best opinion that you can get on your financials. Next, cooperative staff. We can't always say this everywhere we go. Sometimes people don't get us things timely, and sometimes they don't really care for us to be there. Fortunately, we didn't get that from your staff. Your staff were very cooperative with us, getting everything that we needed in a timely fashion. And, you know, I wouldn't say that they were probably excited we were here, but they were very helpful in getting things and had a good attitude about it. And so we do appreciate that. It does make our job easier. Next, there's a summary of your general fund, and
As you can see, we just want to show you a comparison from last year to this year. You can see that your revenues are up, and you can see that expenditures are up. The main reason for your revenues being up from last year to this year is local option sales tax actually increased for you this year, which is very nice. Also, your DSS revenues went up as well. Fund balance. This is a hot topic this year because there are just so many changes. There was a new reporting standard, not an accounting standard, but a reporting standard issued that talks about fund balance. And what it did is it took the three types of fund balance that there were in the past, which were restricted, unrestricted, and designated, and it turned it into 5. There's non-spendable, which is inventories and prepaids. There's restricted, which is restrictions placed by agencies outside of the county, such as the state, federal government, or grant administrators. Next, there is committed, which are internal constraints that you, the board, has put on certain dollars that do not expire at year end. So they continue in kind of perpetuity until you change them. Next, there is assigned. Assigned is a little less than that. Assignments last only for like one budget year. So your assigning of fund balance for next year's budget would go away, and that's why it would be considered an assignment. Unassigned is anything that does not meet any of the other 4 categories. And the way you calculate fund balance still remains the same. It's assets minus liabilities equals fund balance. For your general fund, you'll see that your general fund balance in the current year increased by $425,000 from the prior year. Now I get to tell you about a 6th type of fund balance. This one is not in the reporting standards. It is a calculation that the local government commission at the state level has decided that they are going to use this calculation to compare you to other units. And they call it available fund balance. It is your total fund balance less your non-spendable, which is inventories or prepaids again, which you don't have any in your general fund, and less your stabilization by state statute, which is basically receivables for the main part. It's things that are not readily available in cash. You subtract those 2 things to give you available fund balance. Here is your calculation with your numbers, or with the county's numbers in it. You can see that total fund balance is $3.4 million. Your stabilization by state statute was $730,000. Available fund balance of $2,670,000. You can see your available fund balance. We gave you that number for last year was $2.7 million, and that resulted in a decrease in available fund balance of $84,000. And so that's the number that the local government commission will use to compare you to other units. The things that you would get is if your fund balance is less than half of your population group's fund balance, you would receive what we call a letter. Those amounts are not readily available, as you know, a lot of local governments haven't turned in their annual reports yet. Especially counties this year, there was a issue with the state of getting confirmations in, which has delayed the submission of audited financial statements for counties. And so a lot of that information is not readily available yet.
JP, how many, you said by population groups?
Correct.
How many groups are there across the state?
I think they break it into, I think it's 5 population groups, if I just thinking off the top of my head. You can go to you can Google local government commission under the state treasurer. You can go and look for that. There are memos where they give the information of the population group and their averages. I think it's 5 population groups. However, they separate them into all units, one that has electric funds, some that don't have electric funds. And they just like to show you that information. As you can see here, this is your available fund balance as a percent of expenditures for your general fund. You can see in the current year that your available fund balance as a percent of expenditures for your general fund actually went up. So it was 26% last year, and it's 28% in the current year.
Are you saying it backwards?
Backwards.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it decreased. You're right. I apologize. 2011, 2010, it actually did go down 2%. Yes, sir.
The average, do you have a number for what other balances are for counties our size?
I do not. That was the information I was just talking about, that number is not readily available. That would be a year, a year behind.
But we are at the top as far as, I think.
Your size, well, I mean, seeing a decrease is not, it's not uncommon, especially in these times. You know, I'm reporting a lot of decreases. There have been a few increases, but they're few and far between. And so I would say a decrease in your available fund balance by 2% as a percent of your expenditures is quite common. So next is your top 3 revenues for your general fund. We just want you to know where the revenues are coming from that you're using. As you can see, 57% of your revenues are your ad valorem taxes. That is followed by restricted intergovernmental revenues, 23%. Local option sales tax makes up 16%. And then other revenues, which are listed there, make up 4%. So your top 3 revenues account for 96% of the revenues for the county for your general fund. Here's a slide comparing your property taxes from last year to this year. As you can see, I will get this right this time, you got an increase in the current year in property tax revenue. Restricted intergovernmental revenues, you can see that there was an increase here. This is mainly due to DSS. You know, they've been on top of doing their reimbursement requests, and there is some money that is coming in still from ARA that you're still getting as a result of all the ARA money that was distributed. And so you can see that increase there. Sales tax, this is up. This is not common. You know, I would say you're pretty fortunate in the fact that your sales tax jumped that much from last year to this year. I haven't seen increase for like percentage-wise in the last couple of units that I've done a presentation for, and so you're very fortunate in the
Do you have
current.
any idea what caused that to happen? I mean,
It's all about where people are spending their money and what you're getting distributed from the state, and so people are spending more money, which is nice. So next is your top 3 expenditure. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, and it's all local Walmart down the street.
Yeah. See, so there it is. And people don't like Walmart now.
No.
Next, your top 3 expenditures for your general fund. As you can see, we're just going to let you know what you're spending your money on the most. As you can see, education accounts for 26% of your expenditures, and that's not uncommon. Human services is 19%, public safety at 15%, and other expenditures at 40%. And so you can see that your top 3 expenditures account for 61% of your total expenditures for your general fund. Education expenditures, this just shows you last year to this year. Again, you know, a lot of counties have been doing cuts. Y'all actually increased what you gave your education in the current year, slightly. Human services, you can see that went up. Again, that has to do with DSS. They had to take over a little bit of child care operations that the state cut. And so that actually accounted for you having a little bit more in expenditures than in the past. Public safety, you can see it went slightly down. And those were your top 3 expenditures. Now we're going to talk about your enterprise funds. For your enterprise funds, we just like to point out these numbers for you. These are some of the numbers that we feel it's important for you to know out of your financial statements, and just keep in mind. As you can see, your cash on hand at June 30th, 2011 was $1.8 million. Your unrestricted net assets, that is the closest thing to your unassigned fund balance that you would have in an enterprise fund. And so if you want to know what your unassigned fund balance number is, there it is. It's your unrestricted net assets. That's $1.9 million, which is a little down from the prior year. Your charges for services remain fairly consistent. And then your debt service requirement is still the same. You just need to know what your debt service requirements are. That way you know what you're having to fund as far as debt service goes. Enterprise fund for your solid waste. You can see that your cash on hand at year end was $225,000 roughly. Your unrestricted net assets was $330,000, which is an increase from the prior year. Your charges for services are a little down. That's not uncommon. Just people aren't disposing of as many things as in the past. And then your operating expenditures are down a little bit. 2012, what's going on at the state and local levels? Just things that you need to keep in mind as you go about making your decisions. Your state tax revenues are not enough to fully replace federal stimulus funds that expired in June. The budget's already been adopted, and so you've already seen what they've been cutting or have cut and everything like that. You just need to know that things may change as they get into the budget cycle, and just keep in mind that, you know, they're dealing with a lot of cuts at their level that will trickle down in some effect to you. So just keep that in mind. Federal health care reform will make it harder for states to control cost. That'll be something that you'll see coming down the pipeline. They're going to start figuring out how to fund it and where they're going to make cuts and what they're going to make people pay for and yada, yada, yada. And so that'll be something that will impact you in the future. You just need to know that's going to happen as well. Federal spending cuts will affect state and local governments to varying degrees. We don't know how they're going to go about implementing the cuts and the changes, things like that. I mean, you can see it from the current budget, but that they've adopted, but in future we don't know what's going to happen. And so you just need to keep in mind that they've got a lot of things in the works there. They're trying to replace a lot of the ARA money that they got as well, that they use to fund some operations. And so things are going to start changing. They may consolidate departments. They may eliminate departments. We don't know. So just keep those things in mind. How did local governments fare in fiscal year 2011? This is just a little bit of a comparison that you'll see what happened to local governments in the current year. Property tax revenue fell in the first quarter of 2011, and most places are saying this is likely to continue. We talked about your property tax revenue increasing. Again, that's pretty fortunate. A lot of places have had a lot of businesses go out of business, and therefore they're not getting that tax revenue in, and they've got a lot of empty buildings sitting around with nobody paying property taxes. And so for you, it's really nice that your property tax remained fairly consistent with a slight increase. Sales tax revenue grew by 4% in the first quarter of 2011, the fourth consecutive quarter with growth. Like I said, this is from Moody's Investor Service. I don't see it a lot, that sales taxes really increased 4% a lot of places. I just haven't seen it in the presentations I've been doing. I've been doing presentations all over the state. So you're very fortunate that your sales tax went up for the current year. General fund balance as a percent of revenues fell an average of 3%. And so you can see that, as I said before, your 2% decrease in available fund balance is not uncommon. This time I'll entertain any questions or any discussion anybody has. If not, we appreciate the opportunity to serve you in the capacity as your auditors. It is a pleasure. Your staff is a pleasure, and we just look forward to hopefully being able to continue in the future.
JP, I do have a few.
Okay.
In relation to our fund balance, I was looking at our long-term debt. I think it's on page 46 in your report here.
Okay.
And I got an email back. We just entered into a preliminary option to borrow $1.5 million at 1.77% for 5 years. Well, with our fund balance where it is, in which I guess they still have the general statutes of 8%, right? And of course, from a cash flow situation, with property tax revenues coming in and coming in over the year, of course, in the first quarter, you're going to have quite a bit of those. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at some of our long-term notes that we have over here where we got 4.25% and 3.98 and 3.74, and our investments are earning less than 1% based on the email that I got. So obviously you had to be very cognizant of what's happening, but it looks to me like it's a wise use of cash to pay down your debt and conserve the interest that you're paying on these things. Now, I'm sure that counties across the nation are probably not looking at that because they're probably not in the situation we are. A lot of them are. I know they're not, because they're dipping into the fund balance to actually balance the thing. Well, back in 2008, when we had our property tax revaluation, we increased our tax rate by 5.26%, which was the highest tax increase Gates County has ever had, which has contributed to our fund balance, being able to grow that fund balance. Now, people in Gates County are fortunate from one standpoint, but yet disfortunate from another, and which it makes reference to what you just said. We don't have a lot of commercial buildings Gates County to earn revenue, so we've got citizens that are coming into, and our residential revenue is generating more property taxes. And we don't have any businesses that are actually closing. So our tax burden on and it was in the paper here, Toby made a comment about our tax burden in Gates County being low. Well, that's not necessarily true. It depends on how you look at it. Dare County is number 1 in the state. Well, the reason they are number 1 is because they got a lot of million-dollar homes that the residents, guess where they live at? They don't live in Gates County on a per capita basis. So we in Gates County, we got a stable people, and we got residential, so it's fairly common. We pay sales tax. A lot of us pay it in Virginia to get a little break every now and then, but we pay gas taxes, we pay all these taxes, so the tax burden on Gates County residents is pretty high. Our property tax rate is number 4 on the actual rate, but on the sales ratio rate, on the effective tax rate, we're number 38 in the state as far as our taxes. If you look at the sales ratio on where our real estate is. So what I'm asking you from this standpoint, when I look at these notes over here with this, these rates that we're paying at, and they're extended out way out in the future, would it not be a wiser use of cash in this marketplace with the investments that we're earning on our cash to pay down our debt?
It is a tough decision. There are a couple ways to look at it. One, yes, you are paying down something that you're paying a higher interest rate on when you're getting a low interest rate on your money. However, there was a unit that we audit in the current year that, because of Hurricane Irene, took a $4 million hit to fund balance. If they would have used all of their cash to pay down all of their debt, they would not have had cash to operate on.
Right.
For the short term. Now, also with that, when you issue debt, unlike citizens and unlike, yourself and I, we can go borrow debt at any time that we wish.
Right.
The county can only go borrow debt when they do a capital adventure. You can't issue debt for anything other than a capital purpose. And so if you don't issue debt, then you can't just go back later and issue debt. You have to do it at the time that you decide to purchase that capital thing. You can't just go back and say, I want to now put a lien on this building that we decided to build. You can't do that. And so, if you're going to issue debt, I would say you can always think about issuing debt first with the anticipation that you're going to pay it off early. That we're going to go ahead and issue it because we don't want to spend, like in this case, $1.6 million of our cash on hand because we want to fund current operations. But we may have it spread out for 5 or 6 years, as you were saying, but we're going to pay it off in 2. Let's make it a plan to pay it off in 2. And you can do that. But you would have flexibility to make those decisions if you go ahead and issue the debt ahead of time because you can't go back and do it. There's no way to do that.
All right.
State statutes.
Okay, on this, so you're saying you can't acquire new debt without attributing it to a capital asset?
Correct.
So with these current assets that we have here of refinancing that debt, what's the statutes on that?
No, you can do that. You can refinance debt at any time. You just have to contact the best place to contact, and you can have Mr. Chappell contact the LGC, the debt division, and what they'll do is they'll talk to you about your abilities and opportunities to refinance debt. Because those opportunities are out there.
So basically what I would do is take this with a current interest rate that I could achieve from a lender and find out where my break-even point would possibly be with the current debt at this percent and marginalize it down so that the payoff becomes, I'm paying the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
But by refinancing this debt, then I'm able to actually break even.
Correct.
Yet I'm paying it off in a shorter period of time.
Yes, you can do that. And there are a lot of units in the state that have started refinancing some of their old existing debt because the interest rates were higher than what you can get now.
Yeah, when I look at this in 2037, I see some excellent opportunities here of saving the county some money, and then based on what you just said, depending on how far you want to extend yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. It is.
JP, to add to what Johnny's talking about, and particularly on the September 2037, one that he pointed out, is the state, are they pretty liberal in allowing you to refinance? So if we went to them and said, we want to refinance this just because of the rate, we weren't having any finance issues or anything, we're a stable economy, but we find a better rate, are they liberal in allowing you to do that?
You know, they evaluate everybody differently, and you know they're going to take your financials, they're going to look at them, they're going to analyze them, and what they do behind their doors to come up with how they decide who can refinance and who can't. To be perfectly honest, I don't know the system that they use.
So it would just be a matter of
It would just be a
entertaining the
matter-
idea
Mhm.
and pitching it
Correct,
to
and
them.
they are open to always entertaining. You know, unless your fund balance is ridiculously low, which is not your case. I mean, your fund balance isn't ridiculously low. There are some local governments out there that have fund balance, you know, under 8-12%, and you know you're kind of getting fund balance is low then. I mean, you start talking about what are we doing? We got to increase fund balance.
So what would be the average fund balance in percentage-wise in North Carolina, JP? Would you
I'm
just,
not sure.
I understand,
Well,
just guess.
it's completely different. I mean, like the unit that's out there at the coast that got hit by that hurricane, I would hope they have fund balance somewhere around over 50%. For somewhere, you know, more west, they shouldn't have that high of a fund balance because you're really hurting your citizens to have a fund balance extremely high because you don't have the hurricane
So-
issues that the east has.
Well, when something like that happens, though, an extraordinary event like that is not FEMA and people jumping in to minimize that impact, because, I mean, that's totally unreasonable. I mean, it's an extraordinary event. It's not something that's occurring. Then, of course, the other thing, and I asked you about this last time, and I don't really see it getting better. Matter of fact, I see it getting worse across the nation, is our unfunded liabilities that we have.
Specifically speaking of OPEB, your
Yeah,
other
well-
post-employment benefits.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's a real concern for governments. And when I was in the private sector, of course, we were in the almost required above 90% to have that. And a lot of these governmental units, 40% and things like that. And I mean, that's just really scary to look at it as. And then another thing that happens, of course, that I see is in governmental, where people can retire 20, 30 years. So a lot of people come to work in the workforce at 20, and guess what? They're out at 50. So you start picking those things up, and it's a very scary thing.
It is. There are some differences, though, between that and the private sector in the fact that usually local governments don't go bankrupt. They don't go out of business.
I wonder why that
Unfortunately, unfortunately for the private sector, they do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they have to be accountable for the money that they promise individuals. I mean, it would be a far stretch to say that the county is going to go bankrupt and not be able to fund their other post-employment benefits. So that it is a little different in that respect.
Unless all of us move.
Unless everybody moves.
Well, that's some of the things in which I consider ourselves to be fortunate. We are very disfortunate when it comes to the tax aspect. And when you look at really the state, do you audit anybody out of the state of North Carolina by any chance?
Do I audit anybody out of, I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
In other words, your firm, do you audit anyone in Virginia, South Carolina? Or
No, we do not. We
So all
stay
strictly-
to North Carolina specifically. I can tell you about East Coast, I can tell you about West. I can tell you from the beach to the mountains.
Do y'all do any kind of analysis against our neighboring states?
No, we do not. We do not present that information. You know, at some conferences we go to that are put on by, let's say, GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they do compare North Carolina to other states. As far as the retirement system goes in North Carolina, according to reports that I've been at conferences, North Carolina is very fortunate in the fact that we have funded our retirement system very well. We're very healthy compared to a lot of other states. We were actually pretty high
Well, that comes from a few other little statistics, JP, that, where did I have that at? I got this on, the citizens ought to know that. North Carolina's top marginal tax rates on individuals, 7.75%, and corporate 6.9% income are the highest in the Southeast and ninth highest in the nation. North Carolina has the fourth highest tax on beer in the nation. North Carolina's gasoline tax is second only to Florida in the Southeast. North Carolina's combined state and local sales tax rate of 8.07 is eighth highest among all states that have an income tax. North Carolina's estimated tax burden in 2008, 9.8% of personal income, is among the highest in the South and 20th among all states. Per capita personal income in North Carolina has stagnated in dollar terms and declined in comparison with regional and national levels. So we in the state of North Carolina are not, we're some of the highest tax people in the nation, as we can
But
see.
yet people moving here on a left and right basis from all these other places, aren't they? On a regular basis.
For climate change.
They don't mind paying taxes to be in North Carolina, it looks like.
But, so, you know, that's the thing, and so it's very misleading to say that the people of Gates County aren't doing their share as far as the United States of America.
Yeah, by no means would I ever say anything like that.
Right.
So, Brian, were there any findings that we need to discuss as far as,
I mean, you have, in your compliance letters, you have your findings in the back of the report.
I mean, a lot of these, I'm looking over them, have been pretty much a standard thing since we've been
Correct.
dealing with this. Nothing unusual that we need to be
I mean, as
majorly
you-
concerned about.
No, as you can see, you know, the one finding that's in there has been in there since we've been doing the audit. And so that's consistent. It's not,
Okay, right.
it's common among units of your size and smaller units. You know, I have a couple of counties that are directly under my report, and I would say half of those get this finding. And so it's not an uncommon finding.
So generally, you're saying that finances of Gates County in very good shape?
You know, that's in the eye of the beholder. I would say your staff is very knowledgeable and are on top of everything that goes on in the county and knows what's going on so that you can make the decisions that you need to make for Gates County and their citizens.
Appreciate that, JP.
Let me, on that, JP, on that audit point that's there, of course, when you, and I'm not sure I know exactly which schedules that you're making reference to in here. I guess it could be all of them. I mean, but when you run this, do you take the county data out of a flat file and dump it into a secondary program to generate these, or
We do.
do you do Excel pivot tables, or what do you do?
We get a file from your finance officer, or we get a file from Sandy.
Is that comma separated value or Excel or what?
It's Excel. And
Okay.
maybe it might be comma separated value. It has to be converted to Excel to work in our
Right,
system.
right.
And so if I get it from anything, from a notepad file, from Adobe, from whatever, I can convert it
Right.
back at home. But we get that into an Excel file, and it is your data that comes directly out of your system. We put that into our system, and then we have a template set up that generates your
Right.
financial statements. It does require some tweaking, but the main thing is there are multiple bases of accounting in your report that is unfamiliar to like a private sector. There's a modified basis of accounting, there's a full accrual basis of accounting, which is your GAAP, and so then there's a budgetary, there's non-GAAP schedules in the back, there's required supplementary information, and so there's just a lot of data that's not common to other sectors. And
So, so after you dump that file in there, are you using a account lookup table to generate it into those templates that you have that are already pre-formulated, say for Gates County, or was it pre-formulated for for numerous counties.
No, it
Based
is,
on the count
your
number.
template is unique to you.
Right, so
It
you
is
have a
consistent.
Gates County template that.
We do. It is
That does a
consistent from
lookup
year to
on the
year.
count numbers and places at this place on the schedule.
Yes, it does, and it's consistent from year to year. We don't go in
Right.
and change where things are pulling from.
So everything works pretty good, you're all right, except for doing that analytical to make sure things are in
Correct.
balance. Okay. All right.
Any more questions?
Good job, JP.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions? If not, JP, we really appreciate it. We'd like to thank you for the work you do for us.
You're welcome. We appreciate it. It's our privilege.
Likewise, JP.
Also, I'd like to thank Sandy and your department for the job you do for Gates County to maintain, and county managers to keep up with our finances. It sounds like everybody's doing the job they should be doing. All right, if nothing else, the next thing on our agenda, we've got a couple of budget amendments. Sandy, you want to take care of that? You can just keep piddling around till you get like you want to. We'll work around you.
Thanks, JP. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy.
There were numerous budget amendments that were sent out with your packet, and then there were, I believe, 3 more that I emailed to you yesterday, and I think I put copies, or Diane should have put copies at your places this morning. So make sure everybody has number 24 through 32, and then there's one that's in the middle that Toby's going to cover when he discusses a grant later on. Everybody set? Okay, number 24. We are budgeting some money that the Sheriff's Department is receiving from the ABC Board, and also reallocating some funds to allow for the 2-step increase that you all voted in at last meeting for the sheriff's deputies, and also correcting a carry-forward number in the budget for his drug enforcement funds. Number 25 is a reallocation of funds within the Baby Love Plus grant through the Extension Department. Number 26, we'll be receiving an increase in the revenue for this grant, for the Genesis grant, and this is to reallocate some funds within that grant and allow for that increase. Number 27 is to reallocate funds in the Water and Sewer Department. I believe there was a permit that needed to be paid that hadn't been accounted for when we did the original budget. Number 28, some of the changes the state has made involves child support filing fees. We'll have to pay these fees and then we will get reimbursed, so there's no additional county money here, but we have to budget for it to allow for that to happen. Number 29 is the amendment that Toby will cover later. Number 30 is to reallocate some funds within the Elections Department budget to cover some shortfalls. Number 31, this is to budget for some increased revenues for crisis payments through DSS, and there are also some foster care charges that were not budgeted. This amendment includes no county money. This is all state and federal funded. The revenues are there to cover that. There are some county matches for this that are included in number 32, which is the budget amendment to budget the expenditures of the revenue received from the sale of the Sunbury School on Monday. Most of that money will be expended in the lines listed here, and then the difference, what we needed, will go back into fund balance to offset some of the appropriated expenditures for this year out of fund balance.
So Sandy, what is the line item unemployment expense? Are we paying that on? is that-
Yes, we don't pay unemployment insurance like private sectors. We're a pay-as-you-go. So once a year, maybe once a year, Toby, I think we get a bill from the unemployment, or the Employment Commission for unemployment charges, and that's what that is.
So we got two in Center, or Department 4120 and 4170.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are actually some others that Reba will be handling through grants and through her department, but we'll have to do those next month.
Right.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, gentlemen, on these 6 budget amendments, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, and 32? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the budget amendments as presented.
I'll make motion that we approve budget amendments as noted.
I've got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, thank you,
Okay.
Sandy.
Sandy, have you already passed out number 29?
It's in your
It
packet.
should be in your packets, I
It is?
believe, with,
I don't have it, so.
It should be right after,
It's in there somewhere.
right after the Division of Emergency Management grant.
You can do that later,
Yeah.
you can do it now.
We can do it whenever you want to do it.
Let's do it when we get to that point, then how about now? We'll do that, we'll stay with the agenda. All right, is that it, Sandy? Oh,
now,
you
I've got one more thing. There's a surplus form that the sheriff has submitted. We have a K-9 dog who has been retired, for lack of a better word.
Does he get a pension?
I don't think so.
Just some dog food, but I don't even think the county's funding that,
Okay.
so I think we're okay. You have copies of the surplus form and the letter from the sheriff with his request to retire the dog. It was donated. He was not purchased by the county. The K-9 officer would like to take care of the dog and keep him as a pet. You all just have to approve that.
Are we gonna have that position again, or?
Yes, that's already been taken care of. I believe we have obtained a new dog, correct, Sheriff?
Who's the
And-
new deputy?
Brandon Hawks will be the new K-9 officer. I believe he's in training now to finalize his certification. Is that correct? Yes.
Congratulations on the 16th. This dog was donated by the Department of Corrections out of Virginia. They donated it to us a few years back. This is Shaker, and just age, hip problems, so forth. Al just has to keep him as a family pet. He's had dogs with me for several years now. He's been taken over to keep him as a family pet.
Any more questions on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to allow for the disposition of this dog to
So moved.
handler. A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. All right, next on our agenda, our tax administrator, Ms. Renee McGinnis.
Good morning.
Morning, Renee, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good this morning. Hope y'all are. You have your tax collectors report for November, and really nothing out of the normal with this report. The only thing was you'll notice under the real and personal property up at the top of your sheet, under reliefs and refunds, we have kind of a larger figure than what we're used to seeing, and that's due to several refunds that are going to need to go back to mortgage companies, which Ms. Harrell will go over with you later, and I think she emailed you that list yesterday, and that's just simply where over and aboard has been paid, and it has to go back to the mortgage companies. Do you have any questions in reference to the collector's report for November? Okay, if not, something else I wanted to discuss with you a little bit this morning, and this was put with your papers that you received this morning. We have had 3 county foreclosure sales recently. We did have 2 on November the 30th. One piece of property is located just north of Gates. The information you have on your paper is actually what the opening bid was. what amount of that bid was tax and fees, what the fees included, and the final date for an upset bid. Right now, that first piece, the opening bid was $4,636.69. Right now, the county does hold that bid. The final upset date on that particular property is December the 12th. And what that means is when we have that sale, from the date of that sale, the bid is actually open for 10 days for upset.
Have you contacted anybody on, I see it's only a quarter of an acre, is anybody in the area that's interested in it?
We have contacted prior to the sale all adjoining landowners, anyone that we thought would be interested. And I think what you're going to see basically with all three of these properties, it's just not worth possibly the investment they would have to put in it. And we have still, even after the sale, tried to contact some people, because we have had people to show interest in all three pieces, but as of yet, they're not coming forward, so we've even tried to contact some after the fact. So if you know of anyone that may be interested, same with y'all, please let them know at this point with all three of these. What they need to do is go to the clerk's office, and they can entertain the upset bid there. And if there is an upset bid, what actually happens at that point is we actually go back to the courthouse steps, and then it's open for another 10 days is what happens at that point.
After we take ownership of it, do we?
We will post it on the website, and we will also try to market that piece. And what will happen with that, we will entertain bids once again. If we receive a bid, those bids will come back to the board for your approval or disapproval.
Okay.
When you say you're going to entertain those bids, will that be the bid that's set by the county, or, less than what?
Once that property comes into the county ownership, it truly, at that point, when you're offering those properties for bid, it will truly be up to the board as to, if someone comes in with the lower bid than what we have actually, because when we go to the courthouse steps, our opening bid is going to be for the taxes and all costs that are incurred, is our opening bid. After it comes into the county's possession and we offer it, the county offers it, it is strictly up to you as a board as to what kind of bid you want to accept. And what we would do is, once a bid were to come in, the next meeting date that you would have, we would present that bid to you, and you can either accept it or not. If you chose not to accept it, what we would do is go back to the person that had put in that bid, let them know that bid has not been accepted, at what time they may want to increase their bid.
Now, what about if we don't have an upset bid?
If we don't have an upset bid at this point, the county will own the property.
Well, and that's where I think we need to go with this. We don't need an inventory of properties. And I think
No.
If we don't get an upset bid, I know we've got one property on 158. We've been holding it for years. We need to get rid of that property.
We have had some interest in that property, but the first question that's asked is, does it perk? I can't answer that. They're not willing to put forth the money to have that perk test done. I think there is on that particular property a home that is on the property, an old home that was actually moved there, from what I've understood, from adjoining neighbors. But there was never a septic system or anything installed on the property where the home was.
I think, but now you can put in engineered systems. So, while the perk test, is very desirable, it does not say it will prevent you from being able to put a home there, because the other thing is, now when we're putting the properties up for foreclosure, are we going by this policy that we put in place back in November 2000? Now, one of the things it says is that under once sale date is set, says Gates County will post a sign in the right-of-way of the property advertising the sale date and opening bid.
Now, that we have not done, because we have not as of yet obtained a sign, and that's something I think Toby and I have talked about in the past, and we just haven't gone with that.
We have to identify that property. We've got to have everyone passing by there. I think that's one of the most important things we need to notify the public is when they go by there, this property's up for bid, it's up for sale. And, you know, that's the policy that we approved. And we need to make sure that's, if we're putting these properties up for sale, that needs to be done.
So we've actually, all three of these have been
They're in the clerk's office right now.
waiting for the upset bid,
Yes.
if there is one, or we'll own them afterwards.
So,
And one thing I do want to call y'all's attention to is the attorney fees on these properties. And if any of y'all are interested in coming into the office and either seeing myself or Ms. Harrell, we'll be more than glad to show you the itemized statement of these fees.
and really that becomes a real problem when you have these properties that are coming into foreclosure that do not have a very high fair market value, and the percentage of attorney fees in relation to the property itself really puts you at a serious disadvantage when you're trying to liquidate these things. So
It does.
This first property here, the quarter acre, what is that actually valued at?
I didn't bring that
You
information
didn't
with
get
me.
that.
I'm sorry. It,
$3,500, wasn't it? Something like that.
The quarter acre, the one that,
I didn't bring the property record cards and the
tax is
files with me.
$421.
Yeah, maybe
It's
10,
a
12,000.
piece of property right now that's just kind of grown brush that is back off, oh, excuse me, thank you. The tax value that we have on it is $7,650. And of course, that's assuming, you know, that it is a residential buildable lot unless information was given to us otherwise.
I'd like to see, and I would encourage the board to give consensus on this, is that once we go through the upset bid process, if there's no upset bid, I'd like to see all those properties come back to the board and let's set a price on them. Even the one that we have on 158, let's put a price on it. Let's get the signs out and let's
In other words, you just want to put a price on them and sell them.
let's
Well,
do
I
away
think
with
that's
those
what we
properties.
need to make a decision on.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we don't want any.
We don't need to sit on them too long.
What we'll do is, once the 10-day period, the last one here, the final date for upset on that is December the 16th. What we will try and do, and bear with us if it doesn't get done before the January 1st meeting, because we're going to be kind of busy, but at least by the February meeting, what we will do is try and get y'all all the information as to what cost has gone out on these properties and so forth, email you the property record cards so that you can be looking at them prior to that meeting to have some kind of figure in your mind. And-
Roughly how many properties you think we're talking about now? I know we've
Well,
got
with
two
these,
already.
we do have two. One is from years and years back, and then one that we foreclosed
Yeah, we
on
got
just a
these
few
three.
years ago, and then these
So
three,
we've
I
got
think.
5 we may need to go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if y'all want to do that, you can certainly do that and just go ahead and, you know,
Well,
just offer them for sale.
So why don't we, once we take ownership of this, then we come in that, whether you start with 0 or wherever it is, we post them on the county website with the current bid, and you have X days to upset this bid. And that way,
And I do
you don't have any
think-
people
and cor-
calling or checking, they go do it themselves.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, but right now, the way we have adopted this policy is in this case to use a bidding process. If we were to go back and outright sell the property, if they set a price and to outright sell it, it would have to be determined surplus property prior to that, I think.
We need to make sure we know that before we
Right.
do this.
Right, it will be a little
If
different
we can- if
process
we
than the
can-
bidding
if we got the
process.
do it as surplus property, we can sell it for a price, I think. But we may still have to bid it off.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. That's my answer right now is I have to look at it, but I think you can set a price once you bring it back and determine your own price. I think you can,
Set
but
a
I'll find
price
out for sure.
and then sell it to the first,
Right.
meets the price.
I think it's just a little different process that you'll need to go through than if
Yeah,
you were
we
going
need to
through the
know that
bid
when we set these
process. And
prices up.
we'll,
Any idea, County Manager, when we're going to get these signs up? I think it's very imminent we get them up.
I think that's pretty easy. I think you can call Tall Cotton probably today, or someone who makes signs, and get it started. After the meeting, Renee and I can meet and lay out what we want on the sign. I wouldn't think it would take an exorbitant amount of time to have it produced. I think we'll need to have multiple ones produced.
If we can do it with somebody in the county, I'd like to see that.
okay.
Probably within a couple of weeks, we ought to have.
I would think so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
knowing that this was in the packet, I made a specific trip out to Tuggee Road.
You want to buy it?
No, sir.
I tried that approach yesterday, it didn't work.
In response to Commissioner Jordan's comments on the signs, I would like to see, it's on that Tuggee Road, it ends on Highway 13, highly traffic road, and then 158 through Roduca. I would love to have something similar to a Realtor sign there that says, house for sale on both ends with the big red arrow, and then in the yard, this is the property.
Or tax foreclosure sale.
Tax foreclosure sale, and put the tax assessor's phone number, office number on that sign. Is
And the
way-
county website.
County website would be good too, Johnny. So anyway, I would like to see us approach it in that manner. And to the citizens, you know, when they're here and they're hearing about this, if you know somebody who would like to purchase some property, and I would say at a real good price, you need to bring it to their attention. If you had a neighbor that might be interested. I do want to say though that while the public is here and the cameras are running, that when somebody wants to address this, I think it would be best if they wanted to come to the podium, to not really to bring it to the podium the first time, to go to the tax assessor's office and let them instruct them how to bring it before the commissioners.
While we're talking here, we got just to let everybody know, we've got 3 pieces of property that we probably will be owning. One of them is on Highway 37 north of Gates, which consists of 1/4 of an acre of land. The other one is a 1 acre parcel on Tuggee Road, and the other one is a 1/2 acre parcel on Leicester Lane in Sunbury. So that's just giving everybody an idea what we're talking about.
You can see the clerk of court if you're interested.
All right, is that it?
Any questions with those? And like I say, if you're interested in seeing the files on these as far as the itemized statements and so forth, we do have those in the office, and we'll be glad for you to come by and review them, or if you want to drop us an email, we'll be glad to email them to you, whichever.
One question, on the tax collector's report. Any monies we receive from foreclosures would come under garnishment, foreclosure, advertising, and return. And where would you go?
No, actually, where you would see that is down at the very bottom, the funds received through Travis Ellis.
So that would come under him.
That is where you would see that. And in asking that question, I will let y'all know, one individual that we had in foreclosure that is a pretty large amount. We have received a significant amount from that individual, and promise of more to come. We hope that will be the case. So.
Okay.
And one other thing I did want to mention to y'all, I think all of y'all do receive the county lines. In this last one that came out, there's a very good article concerning the motor vehicle taxing system. And I think if you read that, that will probably tell you anything that I could tell you that I learned at the conference that I was in November. But it's a real good article and how things are going to work with that and so forth. And they're telling us July 2013 is a definite. There's no going back on that at this point.
Let me ask you something about that. I've been thinking about that a little bit, which these vehicles that may have delinquent property taxes on them, could we not go, especially in a lot of days when, of course, when most vehicles, quite a majority of them are financed, go and place a lien on the title of that?
Oh, we can levy on the property. It's just a matter of the funding to do that, and when we go out there and levy on property, somewhere to put it, that it's going to be in a secure place till we sell it.
No, I mean, actually, like, let's say General Motors or whatever, they hold the title of this vehicle that a person has and is delinquent, actually go to the title holder, which is General Motors, and say, hey, there's a lien of $80 on this vehicle. So so they can't sell it, they can't do anything basically with it until they satisfy that debt, either through GM or whoever.
I don't know how the, lenders would work with us with that. I don't know how they
Well,
would.
you can place a lien on personal property.
Oh, we can levy on
Yeah,
any property. That's not an issue.
and that is the title holder of that personal property.
Which, that's just like with when we do a foreclosure. If there are any liens on that property, they're notified, just like anyone else. And of course, at that point, being a lien holder, they become a party to that, so they would certainly be notified if we levied on the property.
That was just something me thinking out loud, but I said, well, look,
No,
this looks to me
that's-
like this is a very legitimate way of doing this and ensuring that at some time you're going to collect on that.
Well, like I say, we can go out there and levy on whatever's there to bring the money in that we need. But in order to do that, we've got to have the funds to do that, and we also, if we're going out there to bring in an automobile to sell for taxes, we've got to have a secure place to put that automobile. We've got to have the funding up front for the tow fee.
That's where the boot man was doing a good job.
So, anyway, but, so, no, that levying on property is definitely, there's really not much within our realm that the law doesn't give us. And I really think levying on personal property is probably the only thing we have not done, and that's just strictly because of things that are involved in doing such.
How do we compare? I know, looking at ours, we're around 82, 83% on that. Across the state, do you know where those statistical data are for the rest of the counties?
It's pretty much the same, and that's very much detailed in the article in County Lines. I think you have two charts
Yeah, I saw that. I
in
didn't
County
read in
Lines.
detail.
It's detailed in that.
That, talking about putting a lien on property like that, you would be similar to a builder's lien type thing.
Yes.
Where you'd have to file it. But that wouldn't work very well with a mortgage company in Michigan or New York City. I wouldn't see, I mean, if they repossess a car, they don't have to check with Gates County to see if they've got a lien on it. I don't
No.
think. They've got the title, they've got the first
Yeah.
lien on it. They would pretty much
They're
have
the-
No, you
whatever
have
they
to-
want to do with it at that point in time.
That's correct. You have to notify the lien, the title
And
holder.
a lot of these, especially the older motor vehicle bills that
Yeah.
we have, people don't even have those particular vehicles anymore. But that does not keep us still from going out and levying against something
I
else
mean,
to
if it was
bring
a
in
house
those
that had to
funds.
come through the county to get a title or something for it, it'd be one thing, but a car that's,
Right.
there's no title through Gates, it's through North Carolina, has nothing to do with Gates County as far
Yeah.
as that goes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And Ms. Harrell is going to present the refunds to you.
Thank you, Renee. Hello
Good
there.
morning.
How are you?
Good. Hope you are. We didn't have any actual refunds, as you'll see, for November. We did have some mortgage company overpayments that I emailed to you yesterday, and I hope you had a chance to review those. And I won't go over each individual one unless you'd like for me to. Are there any questions about any of those?
When you say overpayment, don't we have to receive the payment and deposit it and then submit a refund to them?
Yes, sir, that's what we're doing. We paid the taxes, and then we hold these funds to be sent back to these mortgage companies. They send us one check with multiple taxpayers in that check, and then we just hold the overpayments till the end of the month. After they're approved, we send those back to them. There are a lot of different reasons, as you will see, for the overpayments, such as maybe a closing and the attorney's office had already prepaid on the taxes. The taxpayer may have paid the taxes or some of the taxes. So there's different, reasons that the lenders would go ahead and send the full amount, and then that in turn would cause an overpayment from that check. And that's the reason each year we have this many as far as lenders are concerned, because they're paying out of people's escrows at this point in time.
So when you send the money back, Gwen, do you send them a individual check for each specific property, or do you send them one total check with a summary behind?
As you will see under last payment made by, I tried to list those as to whom they go to, and we probably, I would think in finance, will do one check back to them, and then I will supply them with a copy of loan numbers and information so they make sure they go back to the correct account.
Right, okay.
I guess what I was getting to, and maybe I'm a little premature, you haven't gotten to that yet, but what are we approving today? I'm seeing an overpayment, but are we approving a refund? Which I don't see the refund document.
I did a refund cover sheet, and that Ms. Hendricks has for this approval. Yes, sir.
Okay, we didn't get that. Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I just gave her the original, and that would be the approval that the lender sent too much money, and we're just going to send that in a check back to them. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Gwen, your office, Renee's office, does a good job of explanation and everything. Are we going to start seeing this like this now, or is
I did it this way because at this time of the year, we have so many lenders
All right.
sending those checks with the escrow account payments. But this is not, I did it in a spreadsheet. I thought it would be easier than
Good.
trying to do so many
problem.
individual pages.
Okay, this works.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good job, Gwen.
Well, I would ask that you, in the future, where we say reason for overpayment
Yes, sir.
/ refund.
Yes, sir.
If you'll add that to the spreadsheet.
Yes, sir, I will.
Do we ever, just for curiosity, do we ever have a situation where we might receive a check from any one of these? We take it to the person doing the transaction, they see the overpayment. Do we ever have a situation where we put that original check with a letter and send it right back?
In this case, from a lender, we don't like to do it that way because we want to go ahead and get our taxes.
Okay, that's what I was...
That the reason we do it this way is so we get our taxes paid, and then they get their refund.
Okay, good.
or,
That's a good method.
From the
That
overpayment.
way we've got the money in hand.
Yes, sir, we want
Renee?
those taxes paid.
Mr. Chairman?
Also, another reason, we run it through our system, even if it would be one check for a full overpayment, is that way we can track in our system that we actually received
Right.
that check.
Okay.
Because when you send stuff back to mortgage companies, it never goes through the same hands
Yeah.
twice. And so that way, if that mortgage company comes back to us, we can verify that we actually received it, and we cut a check and send it back such and such day. It just helps us track our records better.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
All right, gentlemen, we've got, you need to action on the refunds, right?
Yes, sir.
We need to action on these refunds that presented by Gwen. So I have a motion that we
I'll make a
approve.
motion that we approve these refunds for overpayments as outlined by Ms. Harrell.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a short break?
Yes, sir, we're gonna take a break. I'd like to do, We've had some information, some developments in the county. Y'all been just talking about, the Sunbury School. As of Monday, the Sunbury School the deeds were signed and the ownership was transferred to a couple from Argentina. They're here today. I'd like to introduce them. It's Mr. Graham Hatch and his wife Brenda. Would y'all come up a minute or two and then let everybody meet you? These are the proud new owners of the Sunbury School. Graham, would you just kind of give an overview of what your ideas are right now? Let everybody have some idea what's going on.
Sure. Well, we're very excited first. Thank you guys for all the really warm reception we've received from day one. So thank you guys. We really appreciate that. And of course, step one in this big, long process is going to be stabilization. We were a little late because we had the termite guy there working with him. So, but yeah, we have a lot of work ahead of us to get the buildings back into good shape and be part of a positive part of the community again. And down the road, Brenda and I, we work in tourism. We have a hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And we would love to see if we could, if it would be feasible for some kind of touristic lodgings and center for tourism could be developed there. If it's not feasible, we have some other ideas and some other plans. Maybe it might revert back to its educational roots with regards to the agricultural community here too. We think that makes a lot of sense as well. But first things first, we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we know in time that opportunities will start to avail themselves as the place becomes more attractive and less of an eyesore, of course. So.
We really appreciate it, Graham. Another thing, I talked to Graham Monday, the issue about the gymnasium and the Ruleton Club in Sunbury. They're very open to letting the Sunbury Ruletons use the gymnasium. We're going to talk to them next week about that in a meeting, and they're very open to let them use the gymnasium. Absolutely. And we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we really want to bring the whole campus back to the community, so that's a great way to start. We're more than happy to.
We thank you for coming.
No, absolutely, and thank you guys again for everything so far.
Okay.
Welcome.
All the best.
Welcome to Gates County.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on with our agenda. Next on the agenda, Morgan Jethro, our planning director. We're going to talk about a landscaping ordinance, and we're going to have a public hearing to go along with that. Okay.
Bear with. All right, I created this presentation just to give the public a general idea of what the purpose is of this. Let me scooch this over this a little bit. Okay. I've heard a lot of concern about the uniformity of commercial areas, especially merchants commerce center. They want it to look nice. They want it to be aesthetically pleasing. That is what the purpose of this is so that countywide things can look a little bit better to the eye. Why do we need it? A visual separation between parking lots, residences, that buffer between incompatible land uses. A drugstore next to a home, you do want that separation. And it's for the benefit of the homeowner as well. Also to screen the dumpsters from view. That's not very attractive. Just some examples of what a parking lot looks like with landscaping. Isn't it nice? Looks a lot better. And screening of the dumpster, so you don't have that thing that's out in plain sight for everyone to see. This is what it looks like without landscaping. And that's what it looks like without that buffer. It's just not very visually appealing. It just doesn't work very well together. Who does this apply to? It does not apply to single-family homes. You are not going to be required to have landscaping requirements. It does not apply to mobile homes. It does not apply to duplexes or any kind of multifamily dwelling on a single lot. Does not apply to existing businesses so long as they don't have an addition of 30% within a 12-month period. And it doesn't apply to existing parking lots either. It's only if, again, the 30% of parking spaces is required. It will apply to new businesses, new industrial areas, and will apply with what an example, and I know that's a bigger city, but that is an example of what it could look like with a gas station. Or you have that buffer between the road and the new business, which looks like a Wendy's. How do you do this? If one is required, and I'll let you know, if somebody calls in and wants to know, hey, I propose to bring XYZ business, what do I need to do? I'll let them know they need to submit an application. It just goes along with it, and it can be hand-drawn. That's fine. I know that not everybody has these AutoCAD systems. You can hand-draw it so long as it's legible. That's fine. You can use a professional to submit it for you. That's fine, and you can submit it yourself. And to breeze through this fairly quickly, because I know that you all have a pretty busy agenda, you can see what will be required. Of course, I'll need to know what kinds of plants you're going to be using, how far apart they're going to be spaced, your screening for your dumpsters, what you're going to use. Are you going to use some sort of a vinyl fence to hide it? And how you're going to plan to water the plants. That is important. Nothing looks worse than dead and dying plants, especially in the middle of August. That's just an example of what one would look like. The landscaping would be required for parking lots. They're going to have 5 or more spaces. Again, the roadside buffer requirements, not to get into the nitty-gritty, but it will have to be perpetually maintained, 1 canopy tree per 60 feet, feet of road frontage. It's got to be at least 8 feet tall at maturity. And areas that are not going to be planted with trees and shrubs are going to have some mulch or some pebble gravel or just something in the middle, some grass. Property line buffer requirements, again, 5 or more parking spaces are required, and the use is like commercial or industrial or institutional, and it butts up to a residentially zoned lot. They will have to have that buffer as well. The purpose, again, shield residences from incompatible land uses. Screening of dumpsters, it's got to be screened from all sides. It can't be placed in the front yard of a business, institution, what have you. Has to consist of closed fences or walls, or you can do a combination of the two. And it's got to be similar compatible materials to the principal structure. Again, multifamily residential use. This is going to be things like apartment complexes. It's not going to be most home parks or anything like that. Not to get into the nitty-gritty, but 2 canopy trees. They've got to get to be at least 8 feet tall at maturity. Again, the mulching will be required, and you'll have to have some understory trees as well to fill it in, like Leland cypresses or something like that. Industrial and commercial uses. They require when proposed uses located within 100 feet of the lot. Again, 3 canopies, 5 understory trees, so you'll have it nicely staggered to fill it in. Mulching is going to be required. Manufactured home parks. This only applies to new ones. Existing ones don't have to comply. 2 canopy trees, 3 understories. Again, this is sounding kind of redundant, isn't it? Maturity, they've got to be 8 feet tall, mulching, or pebble gravel, or something like that. If there are certain circumstances where they can't meet the ordinance, I can't think of any of those certain circumstances right now. I believe the planning board, we discussed that, and I think Chuck Input, we came up with maybe like a flood zone or a wetland maybe. Sometimes there can be some deviation from it within reason. Understories can be substituted for canopies if it's going to have conflict with the overhead utility lines, and I'll confirm that with the utility company. Berms, slope can't be any steeper than 3 to 1 if you're going to use like a berm or a wall to maybe have more landscaping and hold it up. Maintenance is the best part. Like I said, nothing looks worse than dead and dying plants, especially in the middle of August when it hasn't rained. They would be required to maintain them. They would be required to keep it free of litter and debris in the flower bed or in their landscaped area. If they're in violation, we'll let them know. We'll give them a 30-day grace period. We'll send the tenant and the owner acceptable so long as it comports with the ordinance. And of course, common sense, the landscaping cannot obstruct the use of motorists using the road, driveway, or parking lot. This is a really, really important one. Guarantee in lieu of immediate installation. It's recognized that land development occurs continuously in the vegetation. At certain times, may not be the best at planting the best at in the summer. You know, it's probably not a good idea to go ahead and do all the landscaping in the summer when it's hot, it's hardly ever rain. You're setting yourself up for failure. They're probably going to die. They're going to struggle to take root. To ensure compliance, they can submit in the amount of 75% a performance bond to ensure that they're going to be fulfilled. I do have the authorization with this to permit minor deviations from the standards when it's just not practical, it can't be met without strict adherence. Land peculiarities, it's unreasonable to require strict adherence, but an official record of action will be put in the file along with a detailed statement of the reasons allowing the change. Along with this, there's an appendix that will be added that I put together. North Carolina native species off favor. It gives a list of small and large trees, evergreens, and shrubs that may be used. It gives their scientific binomial names, like Laurus udabilis, so there's no confusion. And it also gives description of the appearance of the plant and the characteristics or known problems, such as it's good pollution tolerant or it's prone to disease. And I borrowed it from Currituck County's ordinance, give them credit. This is an example of what one of the schematics could look like. This is Appendix B, diagram of the landscaping yards. You can see just how they have it organized. You've got your dumpster, your parking lot. And this is also just a quick example of just what it could look like. You see the staggering of the canopy and the understory trees and the shrubs. We do have 4 definitions to add to the zoning ordinance so there's no confusion. You see, you have buffer yard, caliper inches, that is the thickness of the trunk of the tree or of the base of the plant. Canopy tree, crepe myrtles, things like that, that overlay canopy, it gives shape. And the understory trees, the ones that lumber over those are tall. So, have any questions? Was that could for you?
Got a couple of comments. First of all, our county attorney sent you a letter with some recommendations. One of the questions was, can the consumer or owner submit the plan, or does it have to be certified? And I think you fairly clarified that here, but in the documents that we have, that was not clarified. So we haven't really seen the language or how that's going to be met.
Are you referring to who can submit the plan? Can it be an individual or can it be a company, and how it will be submitted?
Well, I think you went over it. You said it could be hand-drawn, that the individual could submit it, but in the actual ordinance that you submitted to us, it does not have those provisions clarified in there. And I'd like to see how that's going to be worded.
On your first page, your very first page, section 11.01, if you look under landscaping plan approval, I added that in there. Third line of that bottom paragraph, this plan may be completed by the individual or individuals applying for the permit or another entity. Professional drawings and legible hand-drawn, scale of 1 inch to 50 feet, must be included, no additional fees. I addressed that in that section. And I did have our county attorney look over those revisions, and from your email, you said, looks good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You got more?
Got one more. The other thing is, in 11.09, we say that we'd like to have an adequately secured performance bond in the amount of 75% of the landscaping improvement design, I guess, and materials. I would prefer, we don't have anything here about a penalty. You know, if they don't comply with this, what is the repercussions? I mean, is it,
If they don't comply with the landscaping ordinance and they just don't do their landscaping at all,
well, I mean, if they don't do it at all, or if they don't do part of it,
they'll be in violation of the ordinance, and it is addressed in the zoning ordinance what those fees are. I believe it's $50 a day. It's in Section 12. It's $50 a day up to a certain amount. But if you want that specified there, I can do that.
well, I think that, you know, if we got a penalty in place, do we really need a security performance bond? You know, I don't think we need to add more of a burden to the business owner if we've got a penalty in place. If they know that if I don't do this, then I'm going to have to pay a penalty instead of having to put the money up front.
Well, that's
my thoughts on it.
just a suggestion to answer that. I think the reason why we should keep the security bond in there is, let's say that a new business is opening in June, and they're going to do their landscaping, and if we do the performance bond, they have to comply within a certain time frame, about a year. Those plants are going to have a very hard time taking off and getting root in our summer. So that's what the purpose was of the security bond, because the way that the ordinance is written, they only have 30 days to comply. So it's kind of, you're setting them up for failure, and that's why we decided to do the security bond. So they've got ample time with weather conditions to remedy the problem and to get their landscaping in.
I mean, we could do that by just issuing them an extension or something.
Okay.
And if we did that, you know, if they don't meet the extension deadline, then, you know, they would fall into the penalty category.
Okay, we can do that.
We do have, in our favor, we do have like an occupancy issue, I would assume, not exactly like a residence, but with our building inspector going out there and checking on these things if they're not done. Of course, I realize, again, if we're in that summer situation, and it would be ridiculous, or, you know, to plant the trees that are going to die just so they could occupy the building, would be the only application of the bond I see. But I'm reluctant to cause a business, as hard as we're working to try to attract business to the county, I would be reluctant to add a burden cost to them up front. Now, I don't know, you guys, I don't know how much time you spent on this, so, and I'm not there, so you may have come up with some other thoughts that caused you to go in this direction. But I'm curious, did you get any of this from another county also?
Yes, sir. The landscaping ordinance was modified from Chowan County's ordinance. Of course, we tweaked it for our purposes.
Okay. How about this one part, though? It was in there in its current state, the way it's worded here?
Yes, sir. We did not mess with that one at all. We did not change anything.
Okay, and that was Chowan County.
Yes, sir.
Does it change anything, Henry?
Well, I mean, there again, I think that's another, you know, upfront cost that the business owner's going to have to bear. And if we've got a penalty procedure in place, you know, we could just make that, give them an extension for, you know, for planting shrubbery if it's going to be planted during the summer months and have a potential of dying. I'm just trying to make it as workable as possible, and not have you know, too many difficulties for our business to move forward.
Too many hoops to jump through, yeah.
Are there any appeal process if something is submitted and it's not, don't meet the exact requirements where they can appeal to have something changed or something like that, like you would in a variance, or zoning variance, or a board like that?
If they submit a plan to me that it does not work, and I'll work with them to make it compliant, and if they insist that they are not going to comply with it, it will go to an appeal to the Board of Adjustments.
Board of Adjustment?
An appeal of my decision.
And it would be handled like a variance, is that right? Is that laid out in this?
Well, no, that's not laid out
Or
in there.
would it be, if this goes as part of our zoning ordinance, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So that appeal process is built in the zoning ordinance?
Yes, sir. Under the section where Board of Adjustments is mentioned, it says that they are welcome to appeal the zoning administrator's decision.
So, along these lines of what Henry was saying here, would we as a county or whatever go out to this particular place of business and make a determination, hey, this landscaping to do this would cost $5,000? Do we do that up front, or we,
The cost, no. I would go out there and look at the site to make sure it's compliant and make sure they have everything. But
well, I'm talking about the performance bond now, when you've got to have some kind of,
Number to work with if you're gonna do
yeah,
75%.
somebody has to
Yes, I
have
see.
that.
Somebody's gotta have an estimate of what it's gonna cost to put a percentage on it.
okay.
So what I would look at then is that, let's say if this particular business only has a threshold exposure of $1,000 or whatever, then I wouldn't go through this kind of, sort of like Jack just said, you know, why? I don't want to deter anybody, so I would go look at what the total monetary exposure is before I would get into that, which I think is a good thing, but I'm just saying, if I got a $500 bill, I don't want you telling me, well, you know, you got to do this. No.
I could,
Another thing, is there any, for any kind of process of, you know, if you've got a project of staging it, you know, through a period of 6 months to a year, you know, as they complete the process, instead of having somebody would have to, just for instance, right now, we've got our new people for the Sunbury School here. You know, if they get to the point where they're looking at a landscaping project costing $40,000.
Yeah.
I mean, right up front, that's gonna be an issue with anybody.
that's true. When their final certificate of occupancy is ready is when they've got to have their landscaping finished, and that's at the very end of it. In regards to the 75%, I can adjust that, and we can make that change to where we do the extension. Will you grant me the authority to give the extension based upon whatever reasons are found, and that finding of fact will be put in their folder for reference?
Well, I would certainly make a motion, or you know, however we want to do it as a board, that we do change it. I'd like for you to come back to the board before we do a final, so we can take a look at it.
Before we've got to have a public hearing on this right now. Let's
And I'd
do
like
that.
to see a threshold.
And then maybe we need to push it to the next meeting and actually have a good conversation, be ready for it.
Does this address grass?
Grass?
Yes.
As far as if their grass is too tall? No, sir.
No,
It's
no,
not.
no. I've got a lot of business do this, and go get turf grass and put in to speed the process up. Does this address, I didn't see that in here.
No,
does
sir, it does not address turf, grass, or sod.
Okay.
I tell you what, let's go ahead and get some comments from the public, if there's any out there, and then we can push this on back and mull it around and have a conversation, maybe with the planning board, a little bit more on it. We need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, to go in public hearing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we're in a public hearing to talk about the new proposed, planning, or the, ordinance, governing the landscaping of new industrial and commercial businesses. Is there, or anybody would like to make any comments? First of all, let's see hand of somebody that would like to have something to say. Joe?
Joe, you speaking as a citizen or planning board member?
I'm speaking both, I guess, basically. We put a lot of time and effort on this in the planning board. Ms. Jethro, she put a lot of time and effort. We try to go over every aspect of these when we do this thing. It would be very helpful if somebody from the commissioners would be at these meetings, and when we go over it, and as we go over these things and we come up with these ideas, it would be very helpful at that period, like 75% of it, if there was a comment made by the commissioner or somebody at that point that we do this to protect the county, we do this to protect ourselves. So, you know, it seems like that we go over this money issue with every time. this is something that we need to move forward with. We got the businesses probably pretty soon coming out here. We need to get this in place. And it would be very helpful if y'all, just one or two of you, would come to the meetings, and as we discussed it, put your opinions, and we come here. I think we'd have a better chance of going and improving it instead of going back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments? Carlton, thank you. I understand. Go ahead.
But I think what Morgan suggested, and we're talking about a penalty if they don't live up to the ordinance. I think the performance bond is a personal, is a good idea. Rather than $50 penalty if you don't meet this deadline, or $50 penalty if you don't meet this deadline. You know, we went through the same thing with another landowner, and I guess by now, he has not done what he was supposed to do. He posted a performance bond, and I guess he's probably forfeited that bond by now, because I haven't seen anything that he was supposed to do when he posted that performance bond.
Thank you, Carlton. Any other comments? Chuck? Yeah. I'm not going to excuse you from walking up here because you don't have a back problem. Come on.
Chuck Brothers, 485 Drum Hill Road, Gates. I am a planning board member, and to reiterate what Joe said, we have worked on this for at least 2 or 3 sessions on the planning board level. We did know that there was going to be some items that needed to be tweaked when it was presented to y'all, and I reiterate what Joe has said, and I'll put it into a more user-friendly term. Taking this proposal that you've got here today, we would like for y'all to send back to us a bullet sheet of things that you see have taken up issue with. Personally, I do agree with what former Commissioner Nickens says. In my opinion, I think the performance bond, to me, has more merit than actually the penalty, because it does hold them liable at the beginning, not at the end. I do think that there's got to be some room to be tweaked in regards to if a man has got to have a certain amount of landscaping, is it going to be worth $500 or is it going to be worth $5,000? I guess from our level, we probably didn't take that into consideration, so that's one of the things that needs to come back to us to be evaluated. But as y'all well know, all of this is being driven by our development that is going on at Merchants Commerce Center, and we feel very strongly, and I think the board is very unified in this, that we've got to get this in place to have everybody starting at a benchmark level. We do know that the one entity that's coming probably already has their landscaping in place that they do throughout their own buildings, that they do throughout the state, and we've already addressed that. But from that point on, we've got to have a benchmark to start with, and this is where we've got to go. And I would encourage the Board of Commissioners to come up with that bullet list at this meeting and propose it back through the county manager, back to the planning director, and to our next meeting, so we can address this and move forward on it as soon as possible.
Thank you, Chuck. Anybody else? Okay, we need a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Chuck, I appreciate you and Joe being here. What we're talking about is Section 11.09, the point that you two gentlemen spoke about. It looks in this that the performance bond is only needed if the person wants to move his planning at a later date because of the season.
Correct.
And that sounds like that's the most significant, from what I'm reading, the most significant information that went into the design of this 11.09. I do agree, Chuck, that we need the benchmark set. It needs to be set now. with your the approval of the board, I'd like you to weigh in on this. You know, the first few examples are going to dictate how well our ordinance applied to what has actually taken place. I would like to see us move on this so that we can bring some resolution to it. And if we need to amend it, we're only talking about a person who says, I'm not going to plant right now. I want to wait till later because of the seasonal issues, or maybe it's because of a power company's running a electrical line and it's going to interfere. Maybe it's something we're doing as a county, in, for example, sewer, and maybe we created the situation. So I'm in favor. I'd like to hear some discussion from you guys on that before I make a motion. We can come back. I think it's not a bad ordinance. We don't know how it's going to apply until it's tested. What would you gentlemen say about that specific 11.09 issue?
Well, you know, with all due respect, with the observation of Mr. Nickens and Chuck Brothers, the performance bond is for something that we recognize as an issue. In other words, we're saying that we recognize that if you plant vegetation at a certain time, that it has potential of not surviving. So we've already acknowledged that. We're not putting a performance bond on everything. You know, we could put a performance bond and say, if you don't comply with the ordinance, you're going to have to, you know, have them put up one before they even start. And since you have a specific situation that you acknowledge, why wouldn't you, you know, allow the person 6 months to do it? It just seems a little bit over-restrictive to require someone to put up a performance bond for something you say, well, I know you can't do it, but still, I want you to pay so that when it does, you know, time comes that you can do it. It does, to me, that just doesn't make good business sense, if you will. So I would say that, you know, this is something it's built in. It's something that can happen. You've got a penalty in place. If they don't comply, just give them an extension. I think that, you know, the best way would not even consider that.
Kenny, you want to make a comment on?
I'm like Henry. I feel like the performance bond is, you know, why do you really have to have that when you have some other stuff that's already in place? Do an extension first, and then, you know, see what goes on from that point. And I think you said in your other ordinances, isn't there some penalties in there for not complying with the ordinance?
Yes, sir. If I may, just to touch on the performance bond issue, I just wanted to let you know that when businesses do contact me to say, hey, what's your landscaping ordinance, what's your signage ordinance, and I say, well, we don't have one, they just say, you don't? You know, we're kind of...
Carlton, we got to have that door open, Carlton. We need the door open. I'm sorry. I know you can't hear, but it's one of these things we got open meeting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Open the back door.
Let her get going back, and then I'll take a question too.
I think they stop or something problems out of it.
What I was commenting on was when businesses contact me and they want to know what our general ordinances are, when I tell them, well, we don't have a landscaping or a signage ordinance, they say, you don't? I mean, they come into this expecting it. They know what they're coming up against. They're used to this in other counties. And some of them pretty much already have a landscaping plan ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the penalties go, that can work, but it's hard to chase them down to enforce it because all you do is you put a lien on the property. And say $50 a day, then you got to go through the court system, and that could take 3 to 6 months. So
Well, you could require them to put up a performance bond, for landscaping from the beginning. You don't have to select this one specific item, which you've already addressed. It just seems that we're singling out something that we acknowledge is an issue that you probably need an extension on. And to me, just because Chowan County is using it doesn't mean that that's the best approach. They may have just thrown something in there. So you don't even have a dollar figure that that John has mentioned earlier that you would base this on. So, I think this is an isolated case that we really need to take a good look at.
Ms. Nichols, you had something you'd like to say?
Although Jack always says I'm a business person, I just happen to not know what a performance bond is, okay?
Oh, okay.
I want a definition.
A performance,
What does the performance bond
up,
mean? So that I can relate to why you don't want a person to have a performance bond versus giving them 6 months, okay? I'm sorry, I'm just literally.
a performance bond is actually an insurance policy that you purchase that says you will do a project, you pay this fee, and it guarantees that like you buy an insurance policy. If you don't do that, then you go back on that bond, and the insurance company has to pay that amount up, and then they have to go after whoever has the bond to receive that money. Carlton?
Mr. Chairman, can the board and the planning board of commissioners get together and discuss this and iron out the fine points so that we can move on? We can sit here and argue all day about a performance bond or penalty or whatever. Can you all get together, a representative from the county commissioners get together with the planning board and iron out the fine points of what we're talking about now?
I think we can work something out, Carlton. What does the board feel about,
Well, personally, I like performance bonds because it does hold people accountable if they don't live up to the expectations that we have. However, and my only objection is that if I've got an exposure of $1,000 and I've just spent $100,000 on this place, I don't want you here nickel and diming me to death and stuff. So, it's common sense practice is what we're looking for. I'm fine with it like it is. I just think there are some applications that you got to use some common sense. Now, whether that's written into the ordinance itself, I don't know. I would like to say that I do think the planning board did a good job with this, borrowing from someone else and knowing the knowledge and expanding on it. I think that's great. And really using the resources that we have here in the county to come up with something. And I appreciate what you've done. And it's
I didn't want to cut in on you.
all done.
I feel the same, generally the same. I like performance bonds to the point that it kind of guarantees employees but it also is a burden on somebody, the small businesses that comes in and is going to have, a small business and has to spend so much money for landscaping, and also put a performance bond for that. A large company generally has a performance bond for the contractor before it even starts. And this would probably be part of that. If they show they've got the whole job on a performance bond with a landscape plan, it would cover this, I'm sure, working in some jobs like that. But what if we do it this way? Henry, you've got a problem with it, and we're kind of all in the same point. What if each of us put a bullet together, email together? It seems like be the only issue right now. Or any other issues, get them to Toby this week and let him forward them to her for the next meeting. Then y'all have something to work with his next meeting. If you want Henry or somebody's comment, contact them and let's work this out. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science, guys. So other than that, let's do that, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next meeting. Would that be all right with y'all? Is that all right with the commissioners?
Well, I'm ready to go today with the way it is unless there are some very strong objections. I mean,
Whether you want to make a
I
motion
mean-
of some type to.
I mean, I'd like to have a threshold, but I'm here to compromise. I don't, that doesn't make any difference. Just down the road using some common sense.
Henry, you,
Well, I'd vote against it today. I mean, this is,
I'm not just-
let me just say this. This is the process we have. We discuss, you bring it to the board. This is what a county commissioner meeting is about. It's about discussing issues. Sometimes it gets a little bit back and forth, if you will, but that's the process. This is democracy, and this is the way we handle the business. And, we would hope that we can do this without personal feelings or whatever, thinking someone is trying to just come against what someone is saying. But this is the process, and I think that, as far as I'm concerned, the comments I've made adequately describe what my opposition would be. To put that into an email, the clerk has already probably got it recorded.
well, I was thinking maybe an email saying what you would like to say, how you like to see it written out.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. How about, okay,
Henry,
Jack.
Henry makes a good point. We're here to conduct business,
Exactly.
and he has an opinion. I have one. There are three more up here. We're here to conduct business. The planning board has presented a document, and again, I just want to say this real briefly. From what I read, it doesn't become an issue until the person says, I can't do that, or for a specific reason. They go to the planning director. They try to work that out. I think it's small enough at this point that we need to approve this document. I want to make the motion that we approve this landscaping ordinance today.
I have no problem with that. You've made the motion. Do we have a second on this motion? We'll go ahead and do that. The only reason I said that is because I don't want to make sure it moves forward and not backwards. Do we have a second on the motion to approve the document as it stands? Document dies at this point. You have to bring it back to us again next month. Sorry.
No problem. Edgar? No problem. Thank y'all for your time. I know that was kind of lengthy.
I was trying to work it out so we could move forward. but-
I know.
Okay.
I'm sorry it was kind of lengthy.
All right. Next on the agenda, okay, yeah, we've got a structural demolition with Miss Elsie Thorpe. You can present that. Ms. Thorpe, would you like to come forward too? I understand that Miss Elsie has a structure that's slated for demolition, and she would like to request something. So, Edgar, would you like to say?
Edgar, could you give us a location, like landmark kind of thing?
It is the structure growed up in between the prison and the, what school is that?
Yeah, on this side of the prison.
Right.
Yeah,
Central.
I know exactly where it's at. Okay.
The final letter was given out the 26th of September. According to the general statutes, given 60 days. Statute 153A-370, she had 10 days to give a written notice to appeal to the commissioners, and her 10 days is up along with the 60 days. So now we're to the point of what y'all's decision to bid it out and demolition it or give her extension.
Miss Elsie, would you like to make a statement?
Well, yes, I'm here this morning because I have every intention of having that. Even before you wrote me, it was my intent was to have that structure demolished. Due to personal reasons and not being in the area here, I didn't realize things were the way they were. And I have been in the process of trying to find somebody to do this job at a reasonable rate. So far, I haven't been able to get that accomplished yet, but I am working on it, and I fully intend to do it. Uh,
Have you got
So,
any idea what kind of time frame you're looking at?
well, I would like it at least 3 months to be able, so I can apply with different companies to see which one I can get to do it. I did get a couple of bids on it, but it was astronomical, and I feel that I can do better than that. And so that's why I'm here to ask you if you would do that.
Edgar, will you see any problem with a 3-month extension?
Following general statutes, she had 10 days in writing, and that was not done. Just keep in mind, anything you do now, this being the first one, you're setting precedents for everything thereafter. So in making your decision, it doesn't matter to me which.
Was that general statutes or was that our condemnation? What does our condemnation ordinance says for appeal?
It follows the general statute, that one I quoted and read to.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions.
Okay, Jack.
Ms. Tharp, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. And
you
I,
s-
excuse me, and I did write a letter to Ms. Morgan Jethro here.
We've received that. I believe that was in our
regards
packet.
to that.
We're looking at that. You said that you've had two, Ms. Tharp?
Yes,
I have some questions for you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
yes, sir.
You said that you'd received two estimates for removing the building. What were they?
3,500 and 28.
Okay. The residence, there's a double wide right beside that building.
It's a trailer there, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you own that trailer?
My sister did.
Okay. Does she own it now?
She's passed on, and her daughter does have it.
Okay. There's a considerable risk of that structure that we're talking about actually falling. If it falls, it will fall to the west, and it will hit that structure. There's an incredible amount of liability risk there, and
Yes,
that
sir.
and that is on you.
Yes,
You
sir.
understand that? Do you own any other property in Gates County?
Yes, sir.
You do. Where is that property? Is it in that vicinity, or is it another location?
It's in Sunbury.
In Sunbury. Is it a rental property?
No, sir.
Okay.
So, this tax card, how many acres is this?
It's 5 and I think 3/8 acres. It shouldn't have, may I say this? It shouldn't have been in the first place. I wasn't living here. They put that building up, that trail up.
The double
when I
one.
wasn't here, because I was living out of state. When I came home, that's where I found it, and part of it, like a little corner of it, is on my property. That's why it's so close. They put it on there without my permission. And so, I didn't, because she was my sister, I didn't make her move it. But there was no reason for it to be there when I had particularly stated before that they shouldn't do that.
Ms. Thorpe, I talked with a fellow named Powell,
Yes, sir.
and he seemed to feel that he could very reasonably take that building down for you. And the way he operates, he would use some of the items that he dispose of as partial payments and so forth. Have you talked with him yet?
Yes, I did talk to him yesterday morning, but the problem with that is that I have to get the containers, and I have been working on trying to find out. I called the waste management place down by Elizabeth City, and then there was another one by Plymouth that I have not got in touch with yet because no one responded. And also, I was told Mr. Lewis, I think you have somebody named Mr. Lewis here, Todd Lewis or something like that, that I was going to certainly check with him and see what he would charge. But however, if Mr. Alexander
Powell.
would do that at a reasonable rate, then I will consider that. I did tell them that I'd get back to them.
Right, and I think, I don't know what the cost of the containers are. I don't even know if we would,
$72.60. I have a list over there how much that they would charge me, and they'd have a fee for $80 for something else. It probably would run, depending on how many tonnage it is and how many containers.
well, I think that, in this particular situation, I understand what you're saying about precedents, but for us to go through the legal process to foreclose on this property and the expenses we would go through, acknowledging that Ms. Thorpe would respond within a certain length of time is not worth the cost of even trying to invoke it in this particular situation. Now, in another situation, it may be something we might want to pursue, but I think we should allow Ms. Thorpe 90 days at least to move forward in this, and especially since there are some people that I think can do this for a lower cost than what you originally got an estimate for. And recognizing that the ordinance says what it says, but I think it would be more feasible for the county, expense-wise, to look at an extension in this case.
Edgar, you were talking about a 10-day period. What was the deadline, the date for that 10-day deadline?
The 10-day for the appeal was 10 days after receiving of that letter of September 26th.
So she sent you a letter on a month later, on the 29th. So basically, it's the 10 days is what your concern was. And
Like I tried to explain when we got this, I got to follow these ordinances, and I'm basically like a freight train going down the track. Once I start, I have the process to go. Now we're to the point where I've given her the maximum I can. I can't do no more on my general statutes. It's up to y'all to determine, like Mr. Jordan was saying, the cost what you'd have to do this compared to giving her the extension.
okay.
That's-
Well,
that's
I mean,
what
I want to ask Pitt a question too. Pitt, what's your as our legal, where would be legally if we were to give the extension that we're talking about, a 90-day extension? What legal ramifications are we dealing with here?
Well, Edgar's got a job to do, but you gotta use some common sense here too. I certainly, it's a bad situation. It would've been better if Ms. Thorpe had been able to move earlier, but with her being out of the county, I have sympathy for her situation too. Probably the money we would spend in following through, keeping the train on the track versus her promise to go forward and get this removed. If Henry, if you have, I'm saying this, if you know some contacts through Mr. Powell and you can push it, I'd say try to help her along and push it and getting it removed as quick as we can.
Do you
You're gonna have to do these on a base by base.
do you see any major legal problems for the county if we grant her?
I see more from Mrs. Thorpe's standpoint after Jack's comment about where it's situated near a dwelling than I do for the county. But at any rate, I think you need to move, even though you've given her 90 days, Ms. Thorpe, I think you need to do it within a quicker time frame than 90 days, if you can.
Well, you would be comfortable with us giving her a 90 day. That's the next question. As our attorney, would you be comfortable with us giving her a 90-day extension?
Ms. Thorpe,
Yes, sir?
couple questions.
Yes, sir?
What would you consider to be a reasonable cost of demolition?
What would I, well,
I'm trying to get you some business in the audience.
I haven't figured out the price of what, are they going to, what would they be getting the containers, or do I have to get it? That all depends.
Just to give you
This
an
is all,
idea,
this is all an assumption, so.
we had
Yeah, just
We had one that was demoed in our neighborhood, and it was a two-story house, and it was hauled off. And the cost was $6,000 for that house to be removed. That was the lowest price they got to remove a two-story house. That was in containers and hauled off. That was just done in the last month or two within my neighborhood. So I know what that cost. So I'm just giving you an idea of what $6,000 they took several bids, and $6,000 was the cheapest one they found to move that two-story house out in containers and clean it up. So I just throw that out there.
So again, what would you be comfortable with for demolition?
I guess I probably could go as much as 2,000.
Okay. Now, second question then. That's very good. Thank you. What is your long-term plan for this property?
The purpose was that at some point that I will build a house on it. And, but I'm not in a hurry to do it because I have a place to stay, you know. But that was the eventual goal, was to put a house on it,
So
as long as
eventually.
it perked. And one of the main reasons that I hadn't torn the house down before was because of the fact that I wanted to build a house there. But if I tore the house down, then I would have to, may have a difficult time trying to get it perked.
Okay. Does
So
it have
that
a,
was,
does it currently have a septic system on it? I guess it does.
Yes, my sister has a septic tank on it. She
And
has-
is it county supplied water or is it a well water?
You know, I really don't know.
We're talking about, you've got,
I'm
there's
talking
one
about
house
my-
on it. Is where this building is gonna be removed. Is this a house or old barn or what?
No,
It's an old house.
Okay.
Two-story.
Okay. I think the best thing to do is anybody wanna make a motion to give her a 9-day extension?
I'll
Let's
make
get
that
some move
motion.
on this.
I'll make that.
Before you make a motion, and I don't disagree with the 90 days, we may want to consider putting some benchmarks in. You know, at 30 days, she has to have a contractor identified. 60 days, she has to have this done. So we're not at 90 days and nothing has been done. Just before you make your motion, that may be something you want to consider.
Okay.
You think 30 days is adequate to determine who you're going to use, or?
well, it's a holiday time, so people don't want to, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult to get people to work at this point. That's why I asked for partially, why I asked for 3 months, so I would have plenty of time without having to be rushed into just taking the first person that I meet to do that.
Well, if you
I
give
fully
30
intend to
days,
do
you
it,
can
and I'm
do it.
honorable, and you don't have to worry about it. If I tell you I'm going to do it, I will do it, and I'm sure you know I will.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll talk to Mr. Horner now.
I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms.
County
Tharp,
manager will make-
Yes, sir.
I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Where do you live?
I live in Sunbury.
In Sunbury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I thought you weren't in the area, is the reason I asked that.
Well, I stay in New Jersey sometimes for a while, but I
Okay.
All right. Henry, you wanna make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, recognizing the county manager's concern about meeting milestones at, at the end of 90 days, when we come back, we'd like to have some assurance that things would be in place.
Should be
But,
gone. In 90 days, it needs to be gone, be finished.
Yeah, within 90 days, it would need to be.
in
or
90
at least-
days it'll be gone.
Right. But being that you're aware of that, the comment has come out, I'll make the motion that we allow 90 days to complete demolition of the condemned property.
I appreciate that.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor that will allow, Ms. Thorpe, 90 days to complete the demolition of the property in question. Do I have a second? I'll second that. All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
3-2, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. You have 90 days to complete the project.
Yes,
At
sir.
that, then, we won't be able to,
Sir. It will be done.
okay, we appreciate it if you
It
would.
will be done, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you,
for
Ms.
coming,
Thorpe.
Ms. Tharp.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice Christmas.
Have a good Christmas.
Thank you. You've made my day already. I wish you all the same.
Okay, next on our agenda, we're going into old business. Toby, our county manager, has,
This should be relatively brief. The first thing I have is the HVAC for the administrative building. You see all 4 bids. The winning bid is the 4th one, which has the price at, we'll be using the dual fuel, which is option 1, and the $4,500 upgrades. So it's going to be right at $51,000 for the new HVAC system in the administrative building. Any questions about it?
that was right at the budget that was set up for, right?
The budget was actually 45, but it's in with all the other capital projects that haven't been bid yet, so the money's there. And in one of the budget amendments you did today, it put 6,000 more into that line item to cover the difference.
Okay.
So financially, the money's all there.
All right.
If you'd like to take a vote on it, you can. If not, I'll just proceed.
Now, these are the bids.
Yes, sir.
Gary's Electrical,
Yes, sir.
Johnson,
Mm-hmm. Ward and Sons.
Ward and Son, and
It-
Rayfield.
Correct.
So, what is the total cost?
It's just shy of 51,000. You'll take the
Add on
46,485, take the 46,485.29 plus 4,500.
Okay, what is the 44,000 for?
That would be.
That's
if-
a different-
if
that's
you
additional
did
option.
not use dual fuel, if you use this, a different option.
Okay.
But basically, just to fill y'all in what it is, and I was with Toby on this. The dual fuel is a gas furnaces with a heat pump instead of straight AC, so that the efficiency is higher using a heat pump when the weather's not as cold. But the gas will be there for the cold weather times. It's a whole lot more efficient to heat during mild temperatures than it is with a heat pump than it is with gas.
Any other questions? Okay.
Is there something
You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can. If not,
y'all
we'll
like
move
to
on.
make a move on that? I mean, we don't have to because that's under the threshold. We can go ahead and do it.
I think we can allow the county manager, basically, this is the one you've selected.
Correct.
I
This
don't
is
have
the
a-
lowest reasonable bid.
I don't have a problem with it either.
to
Okay.
selection.
Very good. Then we'll move on. Timmy's not going to be here today. He's in Sunbury fixing the leak that is at the intersection of 32 and 158. So he's not here, but I'll just take his stuff. The report on the Dropbox survey, as of yesterday, the results were 135 for and 16 against putting the Dropbox survey in. Unless there's some objection, the money's there. We'll go ahead and put that in this month.
Please move on.
What were read those numbers again?
135 for, 16 against.
So we got 150 solicitations back.
Actually, that was done at the window, I believe.
No, that's mailed and window, that's
Oh.
both.
Out of how many?
Out of how many what?
How many solicitations?
How many bills do we send out, I guess?
I don't know.
There was
I don't know how many
one-
bills
there
we
was
send
one
out.
in every bill. You get one, didn't you? I got one.
I look at it and I have a negative balance.
You got a, you don't get a bill then, right?
I get a bill, but I don't pay any attention to it until it's a positive.
So, 135 to
You
16.
gonna pay my water bill a while?
Just
Next,
write large checks, Graham.
Do y'all have a problem with, go ahead and put Dropbox in?
No.
Yeah, okay.
all right, next is a proposal for Roundtree Lane War Extension. Timmy's worked on the policy, I think he's just about done, but it's not ready for you guys to vote on today. That's all I have.
talked to William before the meeting, let him know that. We will have an answer on by the first of the month meeting. Okay? Thanks,
That's
William.
that's all my business from now, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next on the agenda, we got new business. Mr. Jack Boyce, our new our EMS director, has a new medical director, it looks like again, since last meeting.
Correct. Good afternoon, guys.
Yeah.
Yep, back in here again. Dr. Howell has since been replaced by MCare, if you're familiar. That's the physician group. They're serving Albemarle Hospital. And their selection was Dr. Samantha Furia. You see her attached resume and stuff there that I sent you in the packet. But just here again today, just to get your approval and see if you had any questions about it.
I have some questions. I have some comments, if you will. You know, when, at the last meeting, when the request was made to exclude one of the new applicant providers for the county.
Yes, sir.
And it was recommended to the board, number one, Dr. Howell, Gates County Medical Director, was not inclined to take any other private ambulance providers under his control at this time. And we made a decision based on his wishes and recommendations, and then the committee said that after looking at the statistics, that you all decided to vote it, deny it as well. You know, we're getting a new doctor. It would seem to me we would want to know what their opinion was or is, and because there was some concerns about this at that meeting, but we went along with it. And you know, when these recommendations come to us, I don't like to look at them as a rubber stamp. In other words, you all make the decision, and also we just want the commissioner's approval. You know, we've got to put in some input, some thought in that process as well. And so I'm a little concerned. What is the possibility of getting the doctor's opinion on the action we've just taken based on our resigning previous provider?
I'm sure we could get it for her. And I would hate to speak for her, you know, speaking on her behalf, but I mean, if that's what you want, that's what we can get.
Well, I mean, that's 1 of 5 now. But I certainly, that's my comment first. You know,
Yes, sir.
We'll decide what.
Henry, I've been sitting on that board. I mean, we're at that point where the doctor was the doctor today on that board, and his recommendation was pretty much at that point. I don't know if, you know, we can, I have a problem with talking to her about that, but a reapplication because we changed the medical directors may be an interesting problem.
How is that organization funded? Is it funded from all these counties? Gates, Pacoima, Pasquotank, and Camden?
Yes, sir.
Actually, it's funded by
Funded by the hospital.
hospital.
That's correct, yep. So really, it's no obligation on our behalf for this specific part.
I think the issue, to your point, Commissioner Jordan, is that the doctor that day has to sign off on it. The Board of Commissioners could actually approve it, and it still will not go into effect. That doctor, whoever your medical director is really truly the ultimate decider. The commissioners could vote 5-0 to say let company X in, but if that doctor does not sign off on them coming into the plan, they cannot come into the plan by law.
And I know too, based off the council's recommendation, the medical director's opinion was just a portion of that. So I mean, the council had found some other reasons in there too.
Well, and of course, Jack, I hadn't had a chance to talk to you, but my whole thing is free enterprise, and I don't like really kind of conveying the opinion out there of a monopolistic type situation. You know, everybody should have an opportunity, and I would hate to be a Gates County resident and want to go do something in Hertford County, and they say, well, you know, we don't need anybody else, and, you know, so, but I, you know, understand that, and but there's a lot to be said in what Mr. Jordan just said, too.
So you basically, you need a board approval to accept her as our medical director. But if we don't approve it, she's still our medical director, is that right?
Or you're without one.
Or you're without one?
Correct.
Well, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation from Mr. Boyce here.
Do I have a second for this recommendation, this motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, Jack, we've
Yes,
accepted
sir.
her as our medical
Yes,
director.
sir. And just to, if it helps, just in that, you know, thought process, y'all are done with it, obviously, but this is the same thing that the other regional counties have in place also. You know, and traditionally, we've kind of all stuck together as a regional type operation, so it's fun. I did want to briefly just touch on 2 other things, just to update y'all. This is nothing y'all needed to approve on. Esther was here earlier with Gates Partners for Health. We were awarded a little bit back a grant from Roderick John Hospital Foundation. It was $10,000 roughly, and we're putting 6 AEDs, spreading them out in the county, and they're going into the local fire departments.
6 defibrillators?
That's correct.
Great.
automatic defibrillator. So the fire departments are on board with that concept, and they'll be helping us out with cardiac arrests.
Jack, they're looking for volunteers to try it out this week. You interested?
Absolutely. So I mean, big thanks go out to Gates Partners for helping us achieve that grant. And, you know, we're working on some things in the future, maybe with some county buildings or schools and that kind of stuff, getting some AEDs out there. The other thing I just wanted to tell you guys, you're familiar that EMS has 3 different levels: EMT intermediate, and paramedic level. Gates County is operating at the EMT intermediate level right now. It's one of about only 10 counties roughly in the state that are still at the below a paramedic level. So part of our strategic plan is to move up to the paramedic level. COA is offering a paramedic level course here locally in the county starting in January.
How many do you have to have to be able to operate like that, Jack?
It's not a really minimum number, but you got to provide 24/7 coverage.
Okay.
So however you work your scheduling to make that happen.
So you get one, you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
That would do it, pretty much.
Is that going to be advertised through the local paper?
Well, COA traditionally kind of does that. Not really through the paper, and we can put it out there, of course. Probably
Put it
wouldn't be a
on
bad
the
idea.
county website or something, you know, maybe
Yes, sir.
upcoming training or something.
Jack, the defib machines, they have a lifespan whether they get used or not, don't they? Was it just a battery part, or?
The batteries do, yeah, I mean, they need to be replaced, I want to say maybe every 2 years,
Okay.
maybe 3.
Each
But-
fire department take care of that, right?
We're actually kind of handling that,
Yeah.
yep.
The reason
We
I asked
took
was
on that
that-
responsibility as part of EMS.
The reason I ask, you said you have 6 now, right?
6.
You got them with a grant. I was just thinking about budgeting going forward.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Something to
once
think
you
about.
have them, you're going to always want them, so that's something we need to be thinking about. I mean, I hope there's a grant again when they need to be replaced, but is there, do you know if there's a number of times it can be used?
There is not.
You hope it don't get used but one time,
That's
one
correct.
year, I can
Right,
tell you
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's all I had. I just want to update you guys.
thank you.
Thank you for your time, too.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
We've got a request to take a quick break. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. You've got a couple of things here?
I do. At the last commissioners meeting, the commissioners, as a body, told our engineer, Gus Simmons, to move ahead with the engineering for the wastewater treatment facility. What you have in front of you is the actual contract that will govern that action. Are there any questions about it? Okay, there's no questions?
Okay, you need to move on this? or-
Yes, please.
And this is going to be paid out of the grants.
Out of the, it'll be paid out of the money that you budgeted at the last meeting.
But it's part of the whole project, is what it is.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract to move forward on the sewer project.
I've got a motion to approve the contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Second thing.
Johnny, you read the contract before I sign it again? Is
Do
there
what?
anything you seen anything there that I need to know about the contract that I haven't seen?
Not with this one.
Okay. Just want to make it go.
Okay. The next
No,
thing.
I'm fine with that.
The next thing you have in front of you is a crime control and public safety grant that we have been awarded. We, one of the other 16 regional counties that are participating in it. We have done this before where we're not the host county, but it's our turn to become the host county for this cycle. What will happen is the other 15 counties and us will have generator transfer switches installed at the places that serve as our housing unit during hurricanes or other events. The grant's going to give each of the 16 counties the money to install the generator transfer switches. We're going to serve as the host county. The other counties will have the work done. Will then send us a bill, which we will send to Crime Control and Public Safety. They will give us the money, and then we will pay the bill. So it's simply our turn to serve as the host county. The $219,000 is not being spent all in Gates County. I think a very small fraction is. I think the number's in the packet, less than 10,000, I would say, is in Gates County,
So we're just acting now, right?
as the host this time.
County this time.
We've dealt with Martin County in the past where they've been the host. That's how we got our LED sign trailer, our Viper radio accessories, and 2 17K generators. Were all given to the county through this grant program with Martin County serving as the host.
So we need to act on this memorandum of understanding, is that right?
Yes, please.
Are there any questions, gentlemen? If not, I'll entertain a motion to, accept the memorandum of understanding to act as the, I reckon, the middleman for this money, this grant.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the State Homeland Security Grant Program for our emergency management system.
Accept the memorandum of agreement.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Memorandum
All
of
right,
agreement.
memorandum of agreement.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Hoare, you on the agenda next for,
Actually, I'm sorry. The Budget Amendment 29 that was skipped during the finance, this is the budget to budget the grant you just accepted. So if you could actually vote on that 29 grant, 29 budget revision, that would be nice.
we need a motion to approve the budget amendment to line item the money that we had just voted for the memorandum of agreement with Homeland Security.
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner Hoare, you're next on the agenda with the closed session audio recording.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass again since it's 1 o'clock. Maybe we'll be on a fast track soon.
Okay. All right, the next on the agenda, that's me, I reckon. We've got, an appointment that we have discussed, let me cut this thing off. We have discussed, Willie Earl was on the, Albemarle Resources Conservation and Development Council. We talked about this, meeting or two ago. Our clerk advertised with no applications received. This morning, I talked to former Commissioner Carlton Nickens. He said he would be interested in doing this position. I told him I would put his name in the pot for this. I reckon, are there any other commissioners that have anybody else that would be interested in serving in this position? I reckon this got to be nominated position. We need a motion to open up nominations for the Albemarle Resources Conservation and Development Council position.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, I'd like to nominate Mr. Carlton Nickens for this position. Are there any other nominations?
Move the nominations be closed.
Second.
On the motion, second to close nominations, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Being Mr. Carlton Nickens is the only nomination, all in favor for Carlton to serve in this position? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Carlton then gone.
Sanders there.
Tell him I said thanks.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk will extend to him an application, so we'll have something on file. Thank you very much.
All right, the next thing, we need to discuss the reappointment of Commissioner Jordan to the Albemarle Commission. Is this a nomination? Anything? Gosh. All right, we need to, a motion to open nominations for the reappointment to the Albemarle Commission Board.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Commissioner Jordan, are you willing to accept the nomination from the commission to go on this board?
Yes, I am willing to accept and be reappointed as the board's pleasure.
Are there any other commissioners that would like to nominate another commissioner for this board? If not, we need a motion to close nominations.
I make a motion, we close nominations for this position.
All second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, the reappointment of Commissioner Jordan to the Albemarle Commission Board, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you, Henry, we appreciate your service there. You do a good job.
I would ask that our clerk to the board would, and I think you're probably going to do that, notify our at-large member, Mr. Wesley Boone, and also thank him for the outstanding service he's provided.
Also, would you send Henry on one of those applications? I'd like to have it on file. All right. Hey, y'all made the rule on that one. That was yours, right, Mama? All right, next one on the agenda, we've got some more citizens' comments. Would anybody like to make a comment? Dan, you like to say something? That'll be fine. That's cool.
First of all, my name is Dan Bazemore. Most of you know me because I'm here at just about every meeting. And
We appreciate it, Dan.
call in if I don't show up or not.
We appreciate you coming and taking them.
So much for that. So what I got on my mind is two or three things. One, I want to congratulate you for being reappointed, and Jordan for you being appointed to your job.
Thank you, Dan.
And I'm gonna give you a little bit of constructive criticism, and at the same time, I'm gonna pat you on the back. So this is good news, bad news thing. All right, number one, if you were sitting on this side of the bench at a number of the meetings that you guys have had for the last year, your hair will probably stand on your head on some of those meetings. And it gives the appearance that there's some things that is going on to where information is not being spread to all 5 commissioners for them to look at things in a timely manner, so that they can study it, think of the pros and cons on it, and then make their recommendations. It seems as though some of you are caught short-handed on that. So if that being the case, I'm only telling you from opinionated things, from what I see, and a couple of my friends and I talk, and I think it would be a good idea to possibly have a session in private with you people, not me, but you people yourself, and come up with a list. In the real world, they have a name for it. And when I'm talking about this, in industry, they got a list that you have to follow. You're given guidelines, but yet you have to follow. The end result is X. And that's in the real world. Now, when I say this, I'm going to allude to what I heard about a contract. And so maybe the best thing to do like that is, on a suggestion, is to take whatever motions you people have and make it into a black and white thing that it has to come back before every member of the commissioners for a final review before it can be signed. Now, it does not mean that each commissioner has to agree with the contract. It means that he is exposed to it so that something don't take place on the side, and then here's another 2 commissioners that is left out in the wind and look as if though they haven't even been exposed to what has taken place. Now, I think I've said enough there to get the point across, because all of us are somewhat dull, and we could understand what I'm trying to say. Now, Now, the next thing is, I feel as though that you're quite well informed of the fact that there's a petition going around. And there's quite a large number of people that have signed that petition. I saw in the newspaper to where a comment was made that there is a few people that are doing that. Well, what I saw on these signatures of this petition, it's telling me that there's a large number of people that have ideas. And I talked yesterday to a person, and they said, Dan, have you even thought that even though they have got until February to have that petition in for you people to consider about getting it on a voter referendum, that technically speaking, the commissioners can make a contract and go ahead and sign it and get it over with on the library. And so the petition would basically be a little bag. So I ask you to consider the people, which are part of the people that put you here. And if the number that I saw is correct, there's enough people that have signed to really elect an official. So that's not 2 or 3 people. That's quite a number of people. So, in honor of the people getting themselves together to give you their opinion on this issue, I recommend that you, any contracts having to do with that library, as far as letting the contract go, on that library be held until such time as this petition is handed in by the deadline in February. Now, you can take action on it, you can discuss it, you can say yes, you can say no, that is up to you. But I am only telling you that there is a large number of people that have signed these petitions. Next subject. We've been talking about land. And land that you people are trying to save. And it's kind of hard for a person to go there and look at a piece of land and see it, and then get a tax appraisal on the thing of $20,000 or $30,000, but yet you can't even get $5,000 for it. Would it not be wise to take whatever you could get for it and get it on back on the tax books and get it off of your books?
I think that's what we were talking about today.
Well, I believe if you lowered that tax rate on that property, it would be more enticing to the individual that is making the bid. Because it's telling you something, if I go to Tugalua Road and look at that piece of property and say, Dan, they got a bid of $10,000, use that for a street. I go over here and look at the courthouse and it's $30,000, $40,000 with that little house on it. Or it may not be of no value for the house, but just the 1 acre of land, which normally that's somewhere between, 28 and 40 for a building. Now, would you bid and then have it jump up to that knowing that you can't even get $10,000 for it? See what I'm saying? So, we might want to kind of look at the things a little bit better and make adjustments as necessary. Go ahead and get these antique things off the books. And so while we're on that subject, I was told that you people own a piece of land that can't be used. That's right here in Gatesville. Now, if that being the case, I would like to make you a reasonable offer at a low fee for a piece of land that can't be used. And that is the land next to the place over here, the last building that you built here in Gatesville.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. Anthony?
I wasn't quite ready this morning, for the first comment. But, like we were talking about a month ago about the best thing coming to Gates County was the camera. Well, another best thing that came to Gates County, which was in 2001, which was the 911 system. And I've used that many times, dealing with, like if I had somebody tailgating me, first thing I do is hit 911, and I'll take like seconds for somebody to show up. And 2003, when I had epilepsy attack, knock on wood, haven't had one since then. It took like, same thing, seconds, minutes for them to be there. So I'm proud that we have a 911 system here in Gates County.
Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate that. Ricky?
Hi, my name's Ricky Lee, Hall Township, and we were talking about land today. Dan brought up something about land, and I'm gonna tell y'all a little story. I actually had to go get food stamps last month. I actually had to go get food stamps. I had to drop my pride, go up to the place there and apply, and get some food stamps. And I walked away, and it was very disturbing to me because I guess about 8, 10 years ago, I had bought some property and started developing it to put mobile homes on for lower income or moderate income families to live at, because Gates County needs a place for everyone to live. I started with my development, and of course about halfway through my development, after investing about $25,000, Gates County told me that I couldn't put mobile homes in Gates County anymore unless there was one there already. Now here I've got to go. I've got plan. I've got a plan. I can put it together. I can make money. I can have places for people to live that don't have places to live. I can have places for people to live that can't afford the higher tier of a modular or stick-built home. But yet, I've got to go get food stamps because I can't afford or I can't utilize my property. It's just sitting there. So I guess my request for Gates County is to reconsider that. We have a lot of people out here that cannot afford a modular or stick-built home. We got people here that are using, well, like myself. I feel like I have all the tools to make it out here without having to get food stamps or any other help from the county. But I'm not enabled to do that. I mean, there's got to be some way we can do this. You can't buy property, put $25,000 in it, and all of a sudden they snatch the rug out of money. You say, nope, can't use it. What good is it?
Thank you, Rick.
You'll get an answer for that next meeting, maybe?
Have you applied for all the applications? I mean,
I
this
was
is
told
all
it was already
zoning
shut
issues.
down.
This is all zoning issues right now.
Excuse me?
Everything you talk about is zoning issues. But the
Yes, sir.
application's been put in and all that been refused, or what?
I was shut down when I attempted to put in for a building permit. I was shut down at that time.
Okay.
I mean, I already spent $25,000. I didn't really think about putting another $5,000 in if I couldn't do anything with it. So I kind of stopped. And I've been at the same place. I mean, the zoning ordinance hasn't changed any.
That's right. Well, a couple of things changed, not much.
Well, nothing that affects my situation.
Okay.
And
with the economic times we're going through, I mean, it's tight on me. I'm sure it's tight on some other people in the county. We have got to accommodate everyone. I mean, this is a country for everyone. It's not a country for people that can afford a $150,000 house and up. This is a country for everyone.
Just for your records, in 1981, I drew food stamps myself while I was out of work with children. So you're not the only one that's ever used food stamps. I promise you that.
Well, I mean, the big thing is, Mr. Twine, you know, if things would have been set up in the county where it should have been, I wouldn't have had to do that.
Things are being said every day. If you make the adjustments with it, make the request to the zoning, then that's all we can do from this point on. A lot of this stuff was done before we were in place, and it's a process that we got. I'll check with Morgan.
But is it fair?
Is it fair?
Does it
It's fair for
discriminate against the lower class
It's fair for
American?
everybody. It's a zone, it's for the counties. It's the county ordinance. It was put in place before any of us were here, and we've got to abide by what's there now.
What was put in place before?
The zoning ordinances that you're talking about right now,
Was put in there before we were here?
before I was here, before any of us were here right now.
Can't we change it? I mean,
Probably. The process is, we're making some changes now. How they'll affect you, I can't promise you that. I don't know that. But the process is, we're making changes now.
I think the good news is the zoning ordinance is being reviewed. That's something that's on the agenda, and you know how it comes out. You know, we don't know just yet, but we are in the process of looking at it.
but is there something I can do to
The whole thing you
help
can do
this?
is follow the process that we've got now until we make any changes that need to do it. I'm not saying the changes will help you now. I can't say that. We don't know how they'll go. But we're working on the process, one piece at a time. Thank you.
Any other advice? Any other board members have any advice for me? Anybody in the audience? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. All right. Any other comments? All right, the next thing, commissioner comments. Kenny?
I thank everybody for coming, and I certainly hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a safe Christmas that's coming up in the holidays.
Jack?
Thank everybody for coming and for participating and being a part of the process. Thank you.
Johnny?
I appreciate everybody coming today, and of course, I take reverence in the fact of what today is. About an hour and 20 minutes ago, Eastern Time, which was 7 Pacific, we all know what happened. The brave men at that time that shed their life for this country. I think it's very important that we remember that, just like 2001. So my father was a part of that, and I really reflect on that history and appreciate the country that we live in and the people that sacrificed for that. Next thing is that, alluding to what Mr. Bazemore was talking about, and we've gone through this process. We spent about $150,000 worth of taxpayer money. We voted last month or thereafter to go borrow $1.5 million, yet we don't have the title for a piece of property that we're going to do it. I mean, we do not have the title for the property that we intend this expenditure. To me, that's extremely premature. I would think it's time for us to, with what's been told to us, that we either get a piece of paper that says this property has been conveyed to the county, or we start doing something else. I mean, it's just good business sense. Would you as an individual go borrow money to build a house and you didn't have the land to put it on? Did you do that? I didn't do that. So, I think it's, again, the cart before the horse type deal. So I think we got some things that we really need to seriously consider here. Thank you for coming. Have a Merry Christmas.
Henry?
Yes. Merry Christmas, everyone, and thank you for coming. I do have one item that I want to bring to the board. We just completed the sale of the Sunbury School, which is one of the pieces of property that's been an eyesore for the community for a number of years. And I'm just very thankful that we've been able to move that, and I'm thankful to the buyers. I would ask that the board would recognize Mr. Jason Pierce. Sidney Pierce. You know, when we started this project, Sidney, I believe he was a senior at University of North Carolina?
NC State.
NC State. He was a senior, and we had an opportunity to get him to work on this project as one of his
He did an internship with the county, and that was part of, well, that was what he focused on during his internship.
Right. During his internship, he sought out ways and possibilities of how to dispose of the property or bring in some new owners or whatever. And PNC, Preservation North Carolina, is one of the entities that Sidney came up with that we should pursue. And having pursued that, they ended up being the ones that facilitated the sale of this property. So I think it would be in order for us as a board to just recognize Sidney. Maybe we might want to give him a plaque or something, but just let him know we appreciate him being a part of helping the county to move this property to make the community a better place.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Is that it?
That's it.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm very happy that we got the Sunbury School taken care of. I'm glad we're moving forward on the library. I'm also, we'll be moving forward on information on the old courthouse in the next meeting. We also would like to, like Johnny said, think about the soldiers and the sailors that died in Pearl Harbor so many years ago. May affect some of your families. A lot of people died in a surprise attack. It happened again on 9/11 when a surprise attack killed a lot of our people. And keep the vigilance of trying to keep an eye as you move through our area and through other areas to notice things like this. It's a very important part of our life. Our whole history has changed because of incidences where other people decided they wanted to come in and destroy our country. And we need to keep that in our mind and our hearts at all times. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Also, remind everybody about the Christmas parade this Saturday. We will have the commissioners will have actually probably my truck, and we'll ride in there, and the commissioner will be here at, what time, 2:30? 2:30 to be in the parade on Saturday. If you want to be in the parade, come on. We'll drag along behind the truck or something. I actually might end up on the hood of Elton's convertible. I almost felt like that last time. But anyway, we'd like to thank you. We also, now we need to go into closed session as authorized by General Statutes 143, 318.11A, 6, and 4. One is the personnel issue, and the other is the economic development issue. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we need a motion to go out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we're out of closed session now. Are there any other discussions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.